When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only that we see. No, I won't be afraid. No, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me. So darling, darling, stand. Got me nodding my head. That's a good little ditty. I don't know. I can't play the violin, but I like that part. I don't even think I have a very good air violin. Sometimes I just start these with a song, though. I really don't know. Like, I've never gotten particularly good at, like, figuring out the best way to start these off explosively or anything, so I basically just, you know, hum a classic rock song or something until some people come along. What even is that? This is a THC vape. But you probably don't mean that. You probably mean, like, what am I? But what am I? I'm something far too complex for you to process, my friends, so you will have to either figure that out on your own or remain ignorant on the subject. Yo. Making a nice coffee with chocolate milk is not a bad idea. Like instead of making like a mocha or something, it's a great way to make like a poor woman's mocha. To just use chocolate milk instead of like milk and then chocolate syrup or something like that. Just use chocolate milk. Use chocolate milk. You need a little bit of sugar in there first though, because a lot of times, like, it's not like using creamer. You would think it would be, but it's not. Were you born a boy? What business is it? Like, just curious, what business is it of yours? If I was, does that change your opinion of me? If I was not, does that change your opinion of me? I think such a distinction would be far more of a marker of your quality than it would be of mine, my friend. You see, I don't wait to see what genitals are in somebody's pants before I determine how I'm going to treat them as a person, or whether I'm going to treat them with humanity, you know? So to me, the question of what gender was assigned at birth has never really held a whole lot of importance, because I think that people deserve to be treated in a humane and kind way, regardless. Do I remember you? No, not in particular. I might remember a conversation we've had or something like that, but it's hard for me to remember chat names unless they come in a lot. The Paul versus Alchemist Oil interview was crazy. Legendary. Everybody has a different name for it, but I like interview a whole lot more than debate, that's for sure. I'll take interview before I'll take debate. A lot of people keep trying to reframe it as a debate. That was never a debate. I was never a moderator. I was like a mediator. I was a host at worst and a mediator at best. And yeah, 100% was legendary, because I knew when to hold Alchemist's feet to the fire and when to let Paul, go off on a righteous rant. And it was also, it was fun to fact check as we went along, because it led to Alchemist Oil being unable to squirm out of a few points. It also led to Alchemist Oil actually having one of his points bolstered, but he was too stupid to actually use it as a contention to argue with. Like, he was way too dumb to figure out how to put it into, how to, like, reframe the argument around that, and how to make his point, and how to use the evidence that I had pulled up on screen to his effect. He had no idea how to do that, and I, of course, was not going to teach him how to debate in the midst of a debate. I was not going to teach him how to recenter his conversation. That was entirely on him. I was not set up to be a moderator. I was not set up to maintain topical anything. I was set up, literally, the entire purpose of me being involved in the Paul's Ego versus Alchemist Oil thing was to prevent them from yelling over each other like apes. And I did, for the most part. I mean, it's kind of hard to restrain Paul. I can use the mute button, but Paul is way, like, if I tried to mute Paul, he probably would have accepted it, honestly. But I think that it probably would have just ended up looking even worse for Alchemist Oil. I think it probably would have ended up looking even worse, because I think that Paul probably would have switched tactics and started becoming way more surgical and precise. Alchemist Oil should be really fucking glad that the debate, argument, whatever you want to call it, turned out like it did. He should be really fucking happy about the way it turned out, because there are honestly... there are, I'd say, a third of the comments on that video that are in support of him. I don't know why he's so worried about the outcome. I don't know why he keeps whining about unfairness, but I'm certainly happy to keep providing the delusion that I was some kind of moderator for a debate, when in fact, what happened is I ran some content on my channel, made about $200, and allowed Alchemist Oil the opportunity to face someone he's been hating on for months. And he fell flat. As Paul said, he fell flatter than a crepe. And that's not my fault. That's not Paul's ego's fault. It's Alchemist Oil's fault. I've died laughing when Paul kept screaming over Alchemist for like 3 minutes. Yeah, dude. Everybody is getting so pissed off by that chunk. But there's a reason why I didn't mute. There's a reason why I didn't mute Paul during that section. And let me just explain to you all what it was. I didn't mute Paul's ego during that section because I knew that this was the only way we were ever going to get Alchemist Oil to understand a point, and that maybe even this wouldn't work. But I had interrupted Alchemist Oil in the middle of an interruption. Like, literally, you can, as you watch the debate, listen to the number of times when I start to say something, and then Alchemist starts to say something back, but I'm not done, so I just say, hold on, no, hold on, hold the phone, I'm not done yet, hold on, it's fine, literally, I tell him 4 times in that debate, it's fine, none of us have a hard out, you can fucking wait, and it will not kill you. So he's just really fucking bad about it. He's awful about running over other people. He finds his time and his speech to be more important than anybody else's, and he is perfectly willing to run over people in speech in order to prove that to everybody. And As a result, I didn't find it particularly important to mute Paul during that section. I figured maybe Alchemist Oil will finally fucking get it. If he gets an idea for how frustrating it is to have a conversation with somebody who's not even fucking pretending to listen. What's up, You're intelligent, whatever you identify as. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. That was an insulting comment about me. Me? What are you talking about? Glad you didn't mute him. That part was so funny. Oh, hell no. I couldn't have muted him during that time. There's no way. There's no way I could have done that. No, dude. That shit had to go. That shit had to go out on the air. It needed to happen. It needed to happen like that. You're a man, dress like it, grow up, stop playing dress up. Dude, I love it. When I wasn't out as trans, everything I did was feminine. Now that I'm out as trans, nothing I do is feminine. And now I suddenly need to be a man. So what is it? What is it, gender enforcers? What exactly do you want from me? And you know, when you get enough of this type of commentary, eventually you just kind of come to the conclusion, maybe it's impossible to please everybody, and you should just live however you want and not worry about. It was weird. Stream died for a second. And yes, I am double fisting the vapes, because despite the fact that I'm back in touch with one of my plugs, I still have not managed to get some actual fucking cannabis yet. So I'm just stuck on the friggin' THCA vape until the foreseeable future. Man, how the fuck did we go from 52 people to 14? Something seems wrong. Yeah, YouTube's just having a seizure. Never mind. It went up to 59 now. I don't know what the fuck is happening. Anyway, what's your favorite food? Oh, God, that's a hard one. Honestly, though, I'm going to have to be a basic bitch and tell you that it's pizza. Probably. Because pizza incorporates a lot more. Like, here's the thing. God damn it. This is a really hard one, right? Because for me, I feel like it's easier to pick a food genre. If you let me pick a genre of food, I'm going to pick barbecue or like soul food or maybe Southern cooking in general, which incorporates a little bit of all of that. But if you ask me like a favorite individual food item, I'm going to say pizza, because pizza can be anything you want it to be. You want a barbecue pizza, you can get that. You want a super fast cooked pizza made in a 600-degree brick oven, you can get that. You want a cheap fast food pizza, you can get that. Chicken bacon ranch, you can do it. Taco pizza, you can do pretty much anything you can do as a food, you can do as a pizza. Bro, mom stole my bong. What? Your mom stole your bong, dude? That's fucked. That's fucked. Because how do you ask for your mom? How do you ask your mom for your bong back? Even if you guys are cool and you guys know that you both smoke weed, it's like, Mom, can I get that bong back? You know, it's like, it's so rare for a parent to actually need anything from their kid in terms of like items and shit. I would almost feel bad asking for, you know, it's like asking your old man for like he borrows one of your tools and you see him using it a lot. It's like asking for him to give it back. You know, it's like, okay, well, if you don't have any other smoking implements, you're probably just going to have to ask the old lady to share. But if you have any other smoking implements, let her enjoy some time with the bong. Oh, I hope. Pizza and burgers, very versatile. Yes, both of those foods are incredibly versatile. You can do a whole shit ton of stuff with a burger. Although I will tell you, I don't think a burger gets much better than toasted buns, a simple patty, onions, pickles, ketchup and mustard. Not a lot of ketchup either. More mustard than ketchup. Maybe a slather of real mayonnaise on the top bun. That's about... I mean, honestly, to me, if you really want to get fancy with the burger, if you really want to, like, improve the burger, what you're looking for is not a bunch of crazy toppings, in my opinion. you got to season that meat better. Ground beef is not flavorful. I don't know why people, I don't know where the fuck this idea came from, but I see it all the time on channels that cook beef and like cook hamburgers specifically. I see this myth being perpetrated all the time that ground beef is like good on its own with just a little bit of salt and pepper, which to me is retarded. I don't know about you, but ground beef is pretty fucking bland to me. So I think if you're really looking to elevate your burger game, you're looking for a little Worcestershire in that sauce. You're looking for a very, very, very finely chopped onion to be distributed through that burger before you form it. So some burger and some Worcestershire sauce and some breadcrumbs in there. You're almost making like a meatloaf, but you don't want to put bell pepper sauce in there. But put some onion, put some seasonings, whatever you would season the outside of the burger with, put it in the inside. It will be way more evenly distributed. You'll need way less of a coat on the outside. You literally just need a little bit to give it some color. And the fucking flavor that will develop from that is wonderful. But nobody treats their burgers that way. Hell, a lot of people just buy the fucking pre-made patties from Walmart and throw them on the grill. It sucks. I think it only takes a few toppings to actually elevate a burger. What you need to do is get fried onion on there and like a smoky sauce that makes it really good. Yeah, those are two great ways to elevate a burger. Fried onions and some kind of smoky barbecue sauce. But honestly, like I said, and like you said, honestly, simple toppings are best. Like, don't worry about all the don't worry about all this like jalapeno jelly and fucking, I don't know, preserved okra and shit like that. Like, don't do any stupid toppings. The only preserved vegetable that should be on your burger is a pickle. The only fresh veg that should be on your burger is a fucking onion. Get the fuck out of here with lettuce and tomato, too. Doesn't belong on a burger. I'm sorry. This might be a controversial opinion. Fine with lettuce and tomato in the side salad that comes with the burger. But don't ruin my fucking hamburger with a bunch of lettuce and fucking disgusting ass tomato. Unless that tomato is like an heirloom tomato or something. If you've got some like serious tomatoage going on, okay, maybe. If you get some like organic lettuce or something, maybe. But the like shit that you normally get as a burger topping when you're getting lettuce and tomato is just garbage. Garbage. Literally garbage. You're getting like restaurant quality lettuce and tomato at fast food restaurants and even just like small mom and pop shops usually is not, we're not talking high quality shit. You really got to grow that shit yourself or go to a farm to table place that has that kind of quality. Otherwise, keep it the fuck off my burger. You might actually have a decent burger if you keep that disgusting ass fucking low quality lettuce and tomato off of it. Maybe it's just me, but I would totally go with no tomato, but I like the lettuce for some more crunch. I do too when it's good lettuce, right? For me, the taste of the lettuce is all, that's what it's about. I don't like iceberg lettuce, period, and I don't like I find that there's sometimes when I'll get certain varieties of leaf lettuce that I seem to like I don't know what kind it is, but there's a certain kind of leaf lettuce that I always like when I find it on a burger. I really don't know what it is, but it has its own unique kind of taste, and it's always crispy and crunchy. I know it's not iceberg, and I'm pretty sure it's not romaine, but I don't really know what it is for sure. And that shit is amazing on a burger, but most people ain't got that shit lying around, so normally I'm just like, nah. When tomato mixes with mayo, it becomes a new super delicious thing. That is actually a good point. See, like, yeah, because that is one good thing about it. Like, if you have a burger with tomato on it, just hope that there's mayo on it, because if those two things mix, you do kind of get a delicious new flavor. Like, I'm assuming it's because the like the dairy and the mayonnaise is probably like counteracting the counteracting the acid in the tomato. That's what I'm assuming is probably happening on like a chemical level. But whatever it does admittedly create a nice new flavor. Still though, the texture gets me on fast food tomatoes. The texture is just not good. What is wrong with me? What am I doing? Like, literally, what am I doing wrong? I'm not a he, number one. And I haven't worn this particular outfit. I guess I wore it earlier today, but I wasn't wearing it yesterday, so fail on that one. Your father must be disappointed. Not quite the opposite. Bro, you're 100% a dude. It's okay, Colton. You can come out of the closet. Nobody is going to hurt you. Nobody's going to judge you. You can stop projecting now. You can stop wiping your transphobia that comes from an internal, like an internal fight amongst the two halves of your brain for dominance. Like, you can put that aside now, and we can walk forward as friends, Colton. It's okay. Everyone knows your secret. Don't worry. Your behavior, the stuff you're engaging in right now, tells everyone how queer you are. Where are the moderators? Oh, I have no fucking idea. Fully vaccinated for sure. I am. I only wish, well, can I say that and not get banned? Yeah, I can. I wish the death toll of COVID had been a little higher. You know, like, how nice events would have gone. Like, can you imagine how much better things might have gone over the last 4 or 5 years if vaccination rates had like a significant effect on long-term survivability of COVID? I guess they kind of did. Like, they improved survivability, but, you know, so did the fact that we fucked up our response to the pandemic and let a bunch of people die, you know? What are your pronouns? She, her, hers. Bro just yapping. Bro wishes they could make some money yapping. That's gotta suck. That's gotta suck bad. That's gotta suck bad. Imagine being on somebody else's channel complaining about them yapping when yapping is literally the entire point of YouTube. Jesus. Do you stand with Israel? Hell no. Hell no. No. Sure don't. Do you have implants? You don't seriously think my tits are big enough that I have fucking implants, do you? Not only are these not implants, but I wasn't even on HRT that long. Like, I want to go back on HRT because I don't feel like I, got nearly far enough, right? So it's just funny that somebody would think I have implants. No, I've just got, like, naturally big titties. I'm blessed, trans woman, in that way. Dr. Pepper is your blood type? Iced coffee, more like. I do drink most of my calories, though. I am fat primarily because I enjoy high-carb foods. Okay, let's turn on the idiot mode because there's somebody in the chat that just can't behave. And so since I gotta treat you guys like little itty-bitty children, let's turn on the idiot button so nobody can fling their shit at the walls, okay? All right, there you go. There you go. Now everybody can be nice. Now we can all get along. God, you people are fucking children. You know, the sad thing is, there's one... Yeah, the sad fucking thing is, there is a literal child, I know for a fact, that watches these sometimes. I guess not a literal child, but like a teenager. In fact, there's a few teenagers I know that watch this shit that act way more mature than the vast majority of people I see commenting in here that I know from my demographics are between the ages of 25 and 65. Man, from what I can tell, the 12-year-olds who interact in here are actually a fair bit more mature than the people who are in their fucking 30s. How the fuck did you people get so fucked up? Can I ask you that? Older millennials, Gen X people, how the fuck did you guys get so fucked up? Because I interact with you guys in the real world, and this shit does not come out. This transphobia shit does not come out. I know it's not everybody. I'm not saying that everybody older than me is a problem, okay? I'm just saying it seems, based on my demographics, that like this hardcore bigotry shit is mostly a problem of generations older than me. And that is really fucking weird to me. considering that you guys are the ones who raised us, bitches. Y'all raised us to be kind and accepting. What did that person say? Oh, I have no fucking idea. I have no idea. I'm not going to scroll up. If they want to sell, how about this? If they want to guarantee that I say it, they can say it over Super Chat. By the way, we have a nightly and daily stream goal of $50. We are currently sitting at $0 because you guys are fucking psychopaths. No, I don't know. But if you want to make sure that your comment gets read, I do read every single Super Chat as long as it doesn't violate TOS. Can you milk a bull? I mean, if you're willing to be a little slimy afterwards, I guess. I wouldn't do it. Wild horses couldn't make me do it, but if you want to milk a bull, keep up the work, Queen. Solidarity. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever, for the union makes us strong. You know, solidarity is a word that has lost a lot of meaning on the left, but I'm glad that some people still use it. It always does my heart good to see somebody else using it. Solidarity to you, my friend. Have you ever ridden a horse? No, actually. Well, okay, I think I technically have, but I was too young to remember it. There are pictures of me up on a horse, right? But I don't remember that shit. And I don't know if you guys have the same kind of thing happen with old childhood pictures, but I will sometimes look at old childhood pictures of myself and be like, there's no fucking way that's me, right? There's no fucking way. I don't remember this shit. I should be old enough to remember this shit. There's a very famous, not famous, but within my family, there's a really famous photo, like I said, within my family, of me and my little sister standing. Obviously, this was way before I came out as trans, right? I was like a little kid, and I was standing beside my sister. And me and my sister have a similar age gap to my dad and his sister. And we were, there was a photo taken of us standing in around the same spot that they had a photo taken of them, you know, like, I don't know, 40 years before that. And it is so fucking crazy, dude. It is so fucking wild because literally if you look at the original and you look at us, it almost looks like a colorized version. Literally, it is fucking creepy. They had a black and white print done of it, and they had them sitting. It was kind of like a practical joke within the family for everybody to come to Sunday dinner for a while. They had the picture, right? They had them both done as black and white prints. Obviously, one was always black and white. So they had the original sitting over on the left side, and then they'd have this more modern picture that had been done in a black and white print of me and my sister standing right there. And people would be like, why do you have two pictures of them? And my grandma would be like, those are different pictures. And she'd let the person look for like 20 minutes before she finally explained that I'm just, you know. And it's funny because nowadays people usually say I look like my mom, right? Like even before I came out as trans, like 6-7 years ago, like after I hit puberty and started growing more, the only way I really resemble my dad anymore is in height. But back then, the resemblance was super fucking strong. You know, you can be trans and still hit the gym, right? You're letting yourself go. Bro, letting myself go implies that this isn't the healthiest weight I've been at in years. It's funny, actually, I'm going to brag to you guys for a second. The last time I weighed out, I weighed out around this time last year, and it was like 346. Not good, right? The last time I weighed out was just a couple of months ago, and it was 300 on the dot. Or it's like 301 or something like that. But it was pretty much like 300 on the dot. So that is pretty fucking wild to me because fundamentally all I have done between that time and this is I drink more water. I drink less sweet tea. I don't know. I don't feel like I'm that much more active, honestly, but I guess I must be. And I eat smaller portions. So there we go. Like, just, it's amazing how much progress you can do on weight loss just by changing a few basic habits. Not that like weight loss is like a critical like piece of the journey for me. I personally don't feel a lot of dysphoria due to my weight. I don't think that I'm like my weight is not a source of self-image issues for me for the most part. But it is interesting to know, right, that it's more accessible than you would necessarily think. I just broke my foot on a dirt bike. That's shitty. That sounds like it hurts a lot. You should probably get yourself to a hospital if you're not already there. Don't be limping around on a broken foot. That shit's not good for you. Good job keeping it off. I struggle with weight loss. Yeah, no, like I said, it's not like a primary goal of mine. It's not something I'm like seeking out with every daily action. But, small little changes add up to big changes over time. And if you get used to eliminating just this little thing or just that little thing out of your diet, it can have a massive effect. Like another thing I don't do nearly as often as I used to, fast food. I was like, especially when I used to live in a minivan, and I basically lived off the back of my guitar and my voice. And as far as dining options, for hot food, it was basically limited due to expense and proximity to fast food and things like that. Every so often, you'd find like a local family chain or family run restaurant or something like that where you could get affordable food. But a lot of times it was just fast food. And so I ended up getting like a real fucking addiction to a lot of that shit. And it's just, like if you have to eat it for an extended period of time, you do get to the point. I think that's the point I got to where you just hate the very idea of going to eat at an actual fast food restaurant. But once I moved back into the house, and I was actually working at a fast food restaurant for a long time, and I kind of got back into the habit. But I don't know, sometime around fall of last year, I decided to cut back on that to the best of my ability and to like satisfy that craving with leftovers, or like I don't know, just because it's like I get hungry in the middle of the day, and just because just like if I have the money for fast food, I try and like just tell myself like whatever, you could get you something at McDonald's right now and for a needless meal, or you could wait till you get home. The craving will have probably passed by then, but if you're still hungry, you can eat some leftovers. And if it's, too late to eat leftovers, then whatever, dinner's just around the corner, and you've basically intermittently fasted today. And so, like, doing that mental math, I mean, as pathetic as it might be to some people to have to remind yourself of shit like that, it is the sort of thing that you have to do if you want to cut out an unhealthy habit out of your life. At least it's the sort of thing that I have to do. The lady probably cried after Kamala lost. Oh, you sweet summer child. You, like so many other people in America, have looked at a human being and have decided everything about their life and everything about their ideology based on a flag or an aspect of their presentation or something like that. Maybe based on my gender identity alone. And you've decided I'm a Kamala voter now. Oh, you sweet summer child. Does someone want to inform the kind man? Does somebody want to inform Fireball of my Kamala stance? You play vid games? Sometimes. I don't really have a good PC for playing video games on right now, honestly. It's kind of shitty, so after I get the RAM upgraded on that and upgrade the I probably need to upgrade the CPU on it, honestly. After I get those two upgraded, I think I'll probably be able to play quite a bit more on there, because from what I was doing, the research I was doing, it looks like the graphics card I've got is actually pretty good. It seems like the relatively low amount of memory that my PC, for being a pre-built gaming PC, has and the fact that it's kind of like an older generation processor is holding it back more than anything. So I just hope that I can find an i7, or I guess it wouldn't be an i7, but it's the AMD equivalent of an i7, right? I hope I can find one of those for the socket type that my chip has. But that's all fucking internal Eve's channel shit that I don't fucking care about, so. Same, I need a new PC, yeah. Basically same. Well, you're a woman. Well, yeah. Does that mean I liked Kamala? I hope I guarantee you she voted for Kamala, though. Bro, Fireball, are you just going to ask how I voted, or are you just going to keep extrapolating? Fireball, do you recognize right now that you're contributing to the vitriol that exists between the two parties? Do you realize that you're just being a foot soldier for Republicans right now? Like, has that entered your mind? Have I been being a foot soldier for Democrats, or have I been talking about how my PC needs an upgrade so I can... Like, here's the thing. You live in this weird land where everything in life, right? Everything in life comes down to Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris. And everybody who comments on those issues voted one way or the other. In your world, the 35% of eligible voters who did not vote last year don't exist. I got news for you. I'm part of that 35%. I really don't care about Republicans or Democrats, and I have a job. LOL. What does you having a job have to do with anything? I don't have a job because that would imply I work for somebody else. I'm self-employed. No, you don't understand. You're assuming I have an opinion or anything important to say. Well, at least you admit it. I'm not saying that Fireball has something important to say. I'm not putting any assumptions on Fireball. What I'm asking of Fireball, and I really do want this answered. Why, Fireball, are you assuming you know everything about me because you saw the flag behind me, or because you see that I'm a woman, or because you, like, I don't know, see that I'm vaping, or see that I have a squatter's rights sticker on my guitar? Here's what you know about me just from what you can see, okay? You know that I'm a chick. You probably can tell that I'm trans. You see that I'm pro-queer in general. You know that I believe in squatters' rights. I know I believe in squatters' rights, or I'm such a free speech absolutist that I let someone tattoo a squatters' rights symbol onto my guitar. You know what I mean? And I don't even believe in it. But I'll let you know I believe in squatters' rights. So, but those are the things you know about me, right? Based on what you can see in the frame. If you look a little closer, which I don't think you can zoom in on videos, but if you could look a little closer, you might be able to just a couple more from those back there. But without asking me, you don't know whether I voted for Kamala or not. And I really find, I find the self-righteous assumption that a person did or did not do something basis of sex, gender, outward presentation, race, anything else like that. I just find that egregiously antisocial, because it's not something that anybody accepts done to them, right? Nobody likes to have their beliefs, their entire right to be assumed about before anybody's even talked to them. I'm not a guy, but if you want to be a dickhead, you can just get anybody conservative side of this argument that does want to have a respect about the conversation. We can talk, but sadly, some are way more interested in douchebaggery than the conversation. They want to come to people like me and say that we're the sensitive little bitches that can't handle anything. I asked him very direct questions about what he was saying, and he did. Instead of answering them, instead of engaging in actual conversation, he turned it into people who were interested in the human art of conversing. Conversation, my friend. You can play your guitar or something, otherwise the stream will get political. I mean, a lot of these streams get political. I've got a bunch of political shit right in the fucking headline because, I mean, ideally, we can talk about the news of the day, we can talk about current events, but ultimately, this is a viewer-driven channel. And so, it's the people who are in the comments, who are interacting with the channel, that largely lead the content down whatever road it goes down. You know? Get the pic. It's the Wi-Fi, y'all. Am I fucking up? Picture name, video quality. Okay, hold on. Hold on. Let me. Is my quality back? Am I fucking still grainy? If I'm still grainy, then I'll close out everything and I'll reopen YouTube and we'll try again. But it's not too bad. Just the quality a little low. Okay. Well, let me try and fix that. Let me try and fix that. Well, I'm not on Wi-Fi. I'm on cell data, but okay. Let's see if we're doing any better. Let's see if we're doing any better. I think your gravitational force is messing with. Well, sadly, I don't think that's how gravity works. You know, like they have internet on the zero gravity situation, but it's being acted on by this massive force. I mean, you're certainly not going to say I'm more massive than the Earth that I live on, right? So, if the ISS can have internet without the Earth interfering with its gravity, then somehow I doubt my relatively small mass by that comparison meter is. I doubt that it's affecting it. I do see where Fireball is coming from, but enforcing your opinions on others isn't right. I'm not enforcing my view of Christianity on others, and she isn't telling us to be in. Yeah, that's the fucking thing. I love having conversations with people who disagree with me. I love talking about contentious topics. I love making shit political. I love this shit. But what I'm not willing to do is have a long conversation with some disingenuous chud that thinks they're better than me because they've got a Bronze Age caveman's idea of gender. You're massively popular? I don't know about that, Bambi. This is actually a pretty low-viewed stream so far, if you can believe it. If you look through some of my other streams, I mean, I've been averaging like 35,000 views for a while now, and this one's looking like it's probably going to top out around 18,000 views over 2 hours, so don't get me wrong, I'm not mad about that. I'm totally happy about the fact that people are checking the channel out, but I'm not nearly as popular as a bunch of other YouTubers operating in the same sort of platform, talking about the same type of content. Although, if my growth keeps up over the next few months, I will actually. Can someone tell me what Demon Mama got up to in terms of subscribers? Because I feel like Demon Mama only managed to get like a few 10,000 subs, right? Did she ever get up to 100K? I don't remember her getting up to 100K. I remember her kind of fizzling out at like 2 or 3 times my sub base. I don't know, but it would be kind of neat. Dude, this is the fucked up nature of capitalism and YouTube, right? Because part of like what will be like part of the benchmark that I'm looking at in terms of my growth, right? Part of the benchmark I'm looking at is when do I suppress other people or surpass, not suppress. When do I surpass other people, right? So when it comes to views, there are already a lot of fucking YouTubers that have way higher fucking sub numbers than I do, who don't manage to draw as many people to their actual live performances, whether that's algorithmic or down to some other, like, regardless of what the reason is, that's the truth, right? And when you're growing a channel, you kind of look for those little benchmarks, and one of the benchmarks I'm kind of keeping in my head is like, you know, the last popular trans femme streamer I knew about, besides ContraPoints, obviously, and Philosophy Tube, I guess, would be the other 2 biggest ones. But out of those 2, besides those 2, the last big popular up-and-coming trans girl YouTuber I knew about was Demon Mama. And she kind of fizzled out like a fucking firecracker. And I don't know what she got up to before she went away. I'm pretty sure if you go look at her channel now, it's like 12,000 subs or something. But I'm fairly sure she got higher than that before all the shit came down. The way that these comebacks are sped out so professionally in terms of dictionary amazes me. If you can sell bathwater, you're gold. Yeah, dude, Bambi, I need to start working on that. I need to open an OnlyFans and start fucking shipping bathwater out of it. For real, hope she's keeping it real. Oh, you guys are so sweet. Yeah, dude. I mean, the thing is, part of the way that you maintain an audience and grow an audience on a platform like this is by being able to fucking take it and dish it out, man. And I do that. I do that perhaps better than any, like, I don't know. I don't know of any other vertical streamer besides maybe Paul Zigo, who I basically aped this format from. I don't know of any other YouTuber that is as capable of responding to hatred with just instant and visceral fucking vitriol, you know, just like that. Knocking it back, putting the ball right back squarely in their field. But it's a skill you have to develop if you're gonna. It's like that in association with a thick skin basically makes you invulnerable to verbal attack. Literally, it's like a cheat code. If you don't mind me asking, when did you realize you wanted to be trans, and how did others react to the change? I think what you're asking is, when did I realize that I wanted to come out? And that happened one night when I was listening to the song Mayonnaise by Smashing Pumpkins. I was really high, but I don't think that had much to do with it, because a lot of the revelations that made me understand who I was happened long before. But it was the combination of being in this room that I had. So before I came out as trans, I'd already started kind of like decorating my room in a way more feminine way, and kind of like telling people that were closest to me, like my friends and shit, like a few of them knew that I already considered myself non-binary. So I'd had like the realization a long time ago, and I was kind of like grappling with what to do, like in terms of coming to grips with what that would mean for my presentation later in life and all that shit. But being in a room that for the first time in my life felt like my room, you know what I mean? It felt like a place I liked to be in. Literally, I'd never had a room up till that point that I liked to be in, because I never felt like I could actually decorate it the way I wanted without having to deal with gay jokes from my friends, or without like having people like look at me weird and shit. But ultimately, it was being in that environment of like freedom to be self-expressive, and listening to that song and a particular line in it that really struck me with like, why should I? Specifically, the line is, no more promise, no more sorrow, no longer will I follow. Can anybody hear me? I just want to be me. And there's also a line about old enough to almost be this, old enough to always feel this. You know, it's just like, I got to a point in my life where I was like, this is never going to change about me. I'm never going to wake up one day and not feel this way. So why don't I just start being honest with people and start dressing however the fuck I want, and decorating however I want, and keeping whatever company I want? And I've been way happier as a result of it. That sounds like a good moment. That was a tremendous moment. I've had other moments like that were pretty tremendous, but not about that particular thing. That really was like the most central revelation that happened in my journey, if there was one. At least so far. Maybe eventually I'll have another one where I've like connected even deeper. Deeper? I think I was trying to say even more deeply and deeper at the same time, and so I said deeper. That's so interesting. Like, actually, it's crazy how music can do that. Oh, dude, music can crystallize something in your head. Music can make you see something. That's why I think that when it comes to like my two passions in life, I really do think that it's pretty much like music and cooking, because I think that you can fix the world with music. I mean, the line on this guitar is not bullshit. I don't know if you guys can see it, but the line on this guitar is 100% true. This machine does kill fascists. The machinery of music, of folk music, of solidarity through songwriting and shared music history, that sort of thing is so fucking powerful. You cannot underestimate the effects. Did you happen to be a smart student? Yeah. I was, I don't know, I wouldn't say I was like brilliant, but I took several college credit classes, like dual credit basically. So I was getting high school and college credit for a bunch of my classes in my senior year. I was in a dual credit vocational school program for the last 2 years of my high school, with a focus on uh, computer networking technology. Or no, what was it? What was the computer services technology? That was the name of the class, and my focus in first year was networking, and in second year I did web design. Music has saved my life, like legitimately saved me. Yeah, it can do that. That's why I say the regenerative community building power of music cannot be underestimated. Music brings people together. Music makes people feel better. Music makes people feel like they're heard. There are sad ass songs that I defend playing because I know that someone hears that song and they know I'm not alone. I'm so not alone that a whole song was written about people in my position. I voted for Trump, still don't regret it. I mean, I think a lot of people voted for Trump for reasons that don't really have anything to do with any of the shit that the Democrats cry about all day. Honestly, I think a lot of people voted for Trump for economic reasons, and if you voted for Trump for economic reasons, like, I don't know. Prices have continued to go up. Gas prices have continued to grow up, but it hasn't it's not like they've shot up by $1 or something. It's not like they've shot up by 50 cents or something like that. It's a pretty normal rate of inflation that I don't really think the president has much to do with. And the president's big old bill full of tax cuts that are temporary if you're working class, but that still feel pretty nice while they're enacted. So if you're somebody like that, I would imagine those types of people really aren't regretting much yet. Now, I do think that they'll start to regret things should the Trump administration change its course in regards to migrant workers on farms, in factories, and in hotels. If they continue to start enforcing raids on those places and cracking down on farm workers and migrant workers in general, then people are going to, over the course of this summer, change their mind about this issue slowly but surely. The right will, because I mean, it just happens every election cycle too. You have to remember, if you're like a Trumpy, hardcore Trump person, you probably feel like you're in the victory lap right now, and that's fair enough. You just won a presidential election, I get it, but know that part of what got you elected this year were fucking centrists, and fucking centrists will vote however the fuck they think they need to vote to keep taxes down, goods flowing, and the government more or less out of their particular community's noses. And for them, that changes every 4 years. So the Republicans fuck up in this way, that way, and the other way. And then they think, oh man, I'm pissed off at these Republicans, I'm going to go to the Democrats. We're not talking about a loyal group of people here. We're talking about a group of people who, pretty reasonably, in my opinion, realize that neither party actually has their interests at heart. And so you pretty much have to go with whichever one you think in that election year is going to do you the best. It just kind of happens that they always pretty much follow this pendulum theory kind of thing. I mean, think about how long it's been. Think about how long it's been since a Republican, other than an incumbent, has won after a Republican presidency. George Bush, right? So the last one you could think of would be George H.W. Bush, right? Because he succeeded Reagan. So Reagan's administration was followed by 4 years of Bush, but after 4 years of Bush, people hated his ass, and Republicans have not managed to win on anything but incumbency advantage since then. Well, incumbency advantage during Bush's administration, and then for the Trump administration's bad candidates from the Democrat side. Literally, if it had not been for the Democrats' complete unwillingness to pick better candidates in both 2016 and 2024, I don't think we would have seen a single Trump administration. I think he'd still be putting away at a fucking pointless ass presidential run that was never going to go anywhere. If the Democrats had allowed Bernie Sanders to run in 2016, Bernie Sanders would have won. And Bernie Sanders' changes to the American landscape, the American political landscape, if he'd been able to get through even a tenth of them, would have massively changed the fabric of America to the point where a Republican uprising, like a alt-right uprising, the likes of which helped elevate Trump to power, wouldn't have even been possible. His chances would have been so fucking low by this time in American history had the Democrats not allowed Hillary Clinton to rule their party platform in 2016. That is why Donald Trump is the president today. Literally, you want to trace back all of this shit you're looking at right now? Are you a right-wing person and you think Donald Trump won on his own merits? Are you a left-wing person and you think Donald Trump won because people are bigoted? The real truth of it is Donald Trump is president today because Hillary Clinton ran against him in 2016, losing fucking tragically to that orange moron, normalized his bullshit, his supporters' bullshit, and set the stage for him to do a coup attempt, which further normalized his bullshit, as so few of them were brought to any meaningful justice, and as he himself escaped any sort of punishment for that sort of thing, right? And then the Democrats turned around and made the grave even deeper by running Joe Biden and then Kamala Harris, two of the most unelectable candidates in America's history. So when you look around, if you're a Trump supporter and you're popping champagne right now and thinking about how great it is that your favorite president just passed the big beautiful bill, just remember that the big beautiful bill would not have been possible without the failures of big beautiful Biden. What would said heterosexual flag be? I don't know. Maybe like a giant Hellman's logo. Sounds good to me. If you don't mind me asking, do you view Christianity with less respect because of many others enforcing it onto you, or not agreeing with your opinion on big biology/anatomies? And if so, I'm sorry. No, I don't look down at Christians individually necessarily. I let people prove themselves to me. Jesus says you will know them by their fruits, right? And so when it comes to someone's religion, I don't assume what anybody's religion is going to be. I let people tell me about them. I don't just assume on the basis of them saying they're a Christian. And I don't assume that you're a good person if you tell me you're a Christian, though, either. That's the other thing. Jesus said you will know them by their fruits, not you will know them by what fruits they claim to have in the stand. You know? I don't like either Trump or Biden. They both kind of mid. Oh, dude, they're worse than both kind of mid. Dude, they're both some of the worst fucking candidates in America's history. And the only reason I think Trump won both times is because the Democrats ran unelectable motherfuckers. But, you know what's the fucking sad thing? Is they could have ran a pretty unelectable piece of shit if they'd let Bernie get 4 or 8 years. They could have ran a relatively unelectable piece of shit last year. And they still probably would have won just on the back of their fucking victories as a party. Even if Bernie was only able to achieve 25% of the things he was out there stumping for, that would have, if he was able to achieve 25% of those things to full completion, that would literally rewrite the fucking fabric of America. We would be looking at a country that would either have universal health care or have student loan forgiveness or have a massive infrastructure renewal project or I'm sorry, in student loan forgiveness, he actually wrapped in free higher education into that. So I feel like those need to be mated policies. What was the other big Sanders policy? Or, we might have an actual fucking tear down of Citizens United, an actual fucking positive reform of campaign finance. Who knows what the fuck we might have ended up with out of the Bernie Sanders administration? We never got a chance to know. And now we've literally permanently had that ability removed from us by the Democrats' unwillingness to engage in any sort of democratic process. Over 100 years of social struggles, we were meant to be the catalyst Marx talks of. Ooh, getting a little Marxian on me, are you? Please whisper sweet nothings in my ear. What is your opinion of ICE? I think ICE is a fascist institution no matter what presidency it's under. I think it was a fascist institution when it was raiding shit under the Biden administration. I think it's still a fascist organization now that it's raiding shit at elevated numbers, in way higher numbers and in even more fascist ways under the Trump administration. I don't think that the letter next to the president's party affiliation, you know what I mean? I don't think the president's party affiliation letter has much to do with whether or not ICE is or is not and like a fascist organization. But yeah, that's what it is. Ultimately, ICE exists to enforce a fascist idea, which is that our country is better than yours, and we don't want none of you mudbloods coming in. That is the fascist idea that ICE is based upon. That's what it's premised upon. This idea that because you're from Mexico, we don't want you in America. We automatically assume you're some kind of criminal. When the fact of it is that 40% of agricultural jobs in the United States are held by migrant workers. I'll say that again for those in the back. 40% of American agricultural jobs are held by undocumented immigrants. Let that sink in. ICE is not fascist. They're not showing up in unmarked vehicles. They're not showing up and refusing to give their name and badge number. They're not showing up and repressing journalists and telling them to get back unconstitutionally. They're not showing up and kidnapping people off of their job sites, giving them and the people standing around them no information whatsoever as to where they're going to be held, when they're going to be detained, etc., or when they're going to be deported. I guess that's just not fascist in your world. Exactly how far can it go when it becomes fascist? When they start knocking at your door? Because if you're Mexican, you're on the fucking chopping block. I'm sorry. Now, you shouldn't need me to tell you, but plenty of naturalized Mexican citizens right now are going through denaturalization proceedings because they had the gall to use their First Amendment rights as a naturalized American citizen to protest against Donald Trump. And I'm not talking people who've thrown bricks. I'm not talking people who've done any of that shit. I'm talking peaceful fucking activists. I'm talking people who the fiercest video you could get of them shows them standing too close to a cop or something like that. We're talking people who ain't done shit wrong except speak out against the Trump regime. People like that are facing deportation proceedings despite the fact that they're naturalized, because they're also facing denaturalization proceedings. But I guess you don't care about that, right? Because you're a Trump sycophant. So you don't care about that because if that happens to you, you're just going to start screaming about how you love Trump, right? And if that happens to you and you end up in jail, you're just going to send a letter to Trump and he's just going to let you out, right? You better hope that you're a birthright citizenship case. And you better hope that Trump doesn't keep pursuing the revocation of birthright citizenship, because that is something he is unironically pursuing. None of you people are Hispanic and are defending them? Yeah, because what I defend, oh my God, you're pissing me off, dude. I don't think people's human rights begin and end at their fucking skin tone, motherfucker. I don't think you gotta be white for me to defend you. I don't think you gotta be fucking black for me to take your back. I don't think you gotta be Jewish for me to have a level of care for you. I don't think that you need to be any particular group for me to feel like, okay, well, now you're deserving of human rights. Now you're deserving of dignity. No, I actually think that you're deserving of dignity, despite the fact that you not only disagree with me and are critically misinformed, but despite the fact that you're Mexican. I think that, whoa, crazy shit, right? White person thinks Mexican deserves civil rights. I know, wild. But it's true, and it happens more often than you might think. Like, what is the fucking implication in your comments anyway? Like, what is the implication there? So I'm white, so therefore I can't care about the fact that ICE is locking up Hispanic people en masse for no fucking reason other than they're fucking Mexican in America? We all have rights. What a radical idea. I know. It's fucking insane. Not your fight. You're clueless. You sound mad. You sound like you've taken one side of this and you're really fucking mad. What Republican organization are you juiced in with? What udder you sucking the titty of? Bernie Sanders said that mass immigration is a policy for billionaires. It is. You know what Bernie Sanders' solution to it was? It was not to lock down the border. It was not mass deportations. Bernie Sanders' vision for fixing the immigration problem is fixing this loophole by making it super fucking easy for immigrants to become legal. By making it super fucking easy for immigrants to come over here and work temporarily, legally, to make both of those situations easier, to create paths for people who have been here and who have established lives here despite the fact that they're undocumented. Because there are people who have gone through the arduous process of doing that. And so Bernie Sanders' solutions is not Trump solutions. I love this, dude. People love to bring out that Bernie Sanders pointed out that mass immigration is ultimately good for the billionaire class and not much else. But people don't want to talk about what Bernie Sanders' solution to the problem was. People don't want to talk about Bernie Sanders' solution to the problem because they just want to use his fucking, it's the same exact shit the Nazis did, basically. They would kill leftist advocates, they would kill leftist arguments and the philosophies and the schools that taught them, and then they would appropriate certain aspects of those philosophies, certain aspects of those arguments for their own purposes. It's like the devil quoting scripture for his own purposes, basically. Legal and illegal immigration is bad for the worker? That's just retarded. That's just fucking dumb. Immigration is fundamentally good for the worker? Fucking what? Yeah, I have no fucking idea what they're getting off. I don't know, dude. Because if you actually look at the history of the American worker, labor unions have integrated immigrants at pretty much every step of a big immigration wave. That is why, to this day, there are so many immigrant families in America that have members of their family in labor unions and shit like that. So the idea that immigration is bad for the worker, I think it's bad for the worker if you're a fucking capitalist that wants to convince people that they need to accept lower wages because that Mexican guy over there is going to take even less. Explain how immigration is good for the worker. Human autonomy is good for people in general, but human autonomy and the ability to immigrate to where a person wants to immigrate to enables someone to leave. It enables someone the freedom to leave a bad employer. It gives someone the ability to go seek employment somewhere where they will be treated better. And it allows them, if you provide a pathway to people who immigrate there, it allows them to legally organize with other people that feel the same way they do. It allows them to actually bolster the ranks of labor unions in America who are currently critically hurting for people with long years of reliable work experience, which is what a lot of these immigrants offer. And as the quality of the American worker goes up, the ability of the American worker to demand higher and higher wages also increases. It actually increases our bargaining ability to bring in people with like 10 years of experience working in factories down in Mexico. That person adds something to our economy the way an 18-year-old just joining the workforce doesn't. You know, it's ultimately a net positive. Not just that, it's a net positive culturally. All that's doing is adding more competition for the American worker. See, that's because you look at American workers as all being in competition against one another. I don't think that that's how it should be. And it's not that way amongst workshops and workplaces that realize that collective action is the only way that a worker achieves anything meaningful in the way of gain. People realize that. Human beings are a competitive species insofar as like interpersonal competition and shit. But the idea that we're a competitive species on the mass level is just false. Human beings are a cooperative species. Civilization is not an exercise of competition. Civilization is an exercise of cooperation. We don't have enough workers in the first place, and they're complaining about competition. Yeah, so I love it. Dude, look for this. It's called the double narrative, and it's something you'll find all the time with people on the far right and admitted fascists and that kind of thing, right? You'll find this sort of thing. Double narratives. So here's the double narrative on this particular issue, right? On the one hand, you've got, there's not enough workers. Nobody wants to work anymore. God damn it. We're all hiring, but nobody wants to work anymore. And then on the other hand, why do you want mass immigration? That's terrible for the worker. We love workers. Then we love workers and we have too many workers. That's competition for the workers. There you go. There's your dual narrative on the issue of immigration when it comes to the far right. They'll tell you one thing when they think that's what you need to hear, and they'll tell you the other thing when they think that's what you're more prepped to hear. And none of it has anything to do with fact. The fact of it is that when an experienced immigrant worker comes over to America, they bring with them that experience. They bring with them that ability to come to work every day, to work hard, and to be a valuable member of that workforce. And in some cases, if you're talking about Mexicans, you're talking about a tradition with you're talking about a country with a pretty long history and tradition of pretty leftist shit. And I think that is what scares them more than anything. I think that the reason so many Republicans have gotten so upset about this idea of immigration, outside of the fact that it's being touted to them, well, really, I think that this tendency I'm about to talk to, or I'm about to speak on, I really don't think that it has much to do with the people on the ground. I think people on the ground hate immigrants because they've been told to hate immigrants. And they've been given a bunch of reasons why they need to hate immigrants, most of which are complete bullshit. But when it comes to the people that are actually putting out all this stupid bullshit, when it comes to the people who are actually publishing this propaganda, I think that there is a huge variety of people who are just plain, just literally acting on their own behalf. They're acting literally in their own interest, basically, to keep American workers fighting with each other and to keep people at each other's throats about this particular issue. They also don't like the fact that, and this is what I was going to get to, they don't like the fact that so many people from South America, from Central America, and Mexico bring with them socialist and left-wing ideas about economic matters and about social matters and things like that. Not universally. There are plenty of conservative Mexicans, but there's also a big tradition of underground leftism in America, or in Mexico and Central America and things like that. So I think that when it comes down to it, I think that it's two things: fear about what the Mexican population is going to bring in terms of workers organizing, and a complete willingness to do whatever it takes and to imprison and inconvenience anyone they have to in order to keep their fucking capitalist society going. Because keeping a capitalist society going all the way through its natural fascist death throes requires scapegoating some group or another. And once the Mexicans are all gone, they'll move on to scapegoating trans people, and then we'll be in camps. And then when they get rid of us, they'll move on to the trade unionists, or they'll move on to the online anarchists, maybe. Who knows? And eventually they'll start getting people that you care about. Eventually they'll start getting people that you kind of look up to, or that you thought were kind of cool, or at the very least you didn't want to see them go away. But by the time they get to you, it'll be too late. So, and that's assuming that Trump is able to actually see everything he wants to see to completion, which I don't think he's going to be able to do. You know, not only is he constitutionally limited, I think he's just limited from within his own party and within the structure of the government. But on the other hand, I also think that every American politician currently sitting in the government would throw the American people down the garbage for Buffalo nickel. So I don't know if I can trust that. I got a super chat. I'm so sorry. I didn't even read it. I feel bad. I just saw that amount. Bring me your poor. You're tired. You're hungry. Exactly, Riley Weston. Thank you for being a member, and thank you for participating in chat. Buckeyes, they deporting dishwashers? Yeah, they're deporting dishwashers and fucking car washers and fucking janitors farm workers, all kinds of shit. Now, Trump did issue some guidance saying, like, we're going to let the farmers handle this, basically saying if farmers will vouch for specific groups of immigrants that Trump will steer clear of them and shit, but I don't know how that's all going to be coordinated. It sounds to me like it's just a placation for his base and a placation to the American people, because I think he's beginning to see people, like the gears are starting to turn in people's heads, and I'm not the only person realizing that tomatoes are going to go up in price because of this bullshit, that all sorts of agricultural goods are going to go up in price because of this bullshit. What do you foresee for Vance's presidency? Vance ain't never going to be the president. Vance has touched the highest position of power he will ever touch in his life. I'll tell you that right now. Vance will never be president. I don't even have to consider it. Joe Rogan for president? Joe Rogan would get elected a hell of a lot quicker before Egg Vance, I tell you that much. Let's say Trump passes. Okay. If Trump passes, then JD Vance is going to do whatever the Republican Party tells him to do. That's what I project. Either JD Vance will do whatever the Republican tells him to do, or he'll do something that's a little bit to the left of what the Republican Party tells him to do. I honestly think that JD Vance, from what I can tell, seems to be way less like fucked up than Trump. Like, here's the thing. When you looked at Mike Pence in contrast to Trump, Mike Pence was arguably worse. Like, because Mike Pence was actually a semi-competent statesman, but Mike Pence was, like, way more clear about the things that he had problems with. He was way less weaselly and sneaky and slimy about it. And so we definitely would have had a Christocracy if... we would have had a Christofascist dictatorship if it had been Mike Pence, right? But with J.D. Vance, I really don't perceive that same kind of energy out of him. And when I've heard him talk about policy and shit, he's pretty much just defending the shit Trump does. But if you look at his fucking Twitter way back when, on the Wayback Machine, this dude was a Trump fucking critic for a long time. I think... I think that without the I think that without the burden of Trump on him, he would probably revert back to a lot of that shit. So I don't know. I don't think it would be the worst thing ever, honestly. I think it would be a pretty mundane presidency. I agree. I don't think he can do what Trump does with the party. No. That's the other thing I'm thinking about. J.D. Vance does not have the masterful command of a room that Trump does. And that's one of those things. It's just like, you know how you have to give it to Hitler that he really was good at speeches or whatever. You know, it's the same thing with Trump. I hate that dude. But the reason why he's been elected twice, outside of the Democrats' failure to present better candidates, is because he can captivate a room. He can say a bunch of insane shit and get a bunch of fucking press for it and tickle the hearts and minds of a bunch of conservatives and far-right weirdos and shit. And, you know, it's like a never-ending cycle. Him getting more press enables him to get more access to the press and enables him to get a bigger platform, which enables him to say crazier shit, which enables him to get a bigger platform, which enables him to say crazier shit. And at this point, you're literally just, we're stuck in the Trump feedback loop. That's why his policies have gotten even crazier and even crazier. And that's why he also can't seem to land on a fucking starting date for any of these tariffs. That's why these tariffs are all up in the air, is because his base isn't fucking fully convinced on him. That's why the Iran war ended for now, because his base ain't about it. Vance won't get the support? No. Yeah, insanely better options, especially because we weren't allowed to pick our Democrat candidate. She was just picked for us. I don't know. Seems weird to me. Yeah, Tyson. Seems weird to me as well. Seems weird to me that the Democratic Party was unwilling to engage in, oh, I don't know, democracy? Could we have used, like, I wonder if maybe the Democratic Party, well-known advocate of democracy and the willingness of the you know, like the social compact and the importance of people's vote, you would think that maybe the Democratic Party could engage in a little, oh, you know, I don't know, maybe fucking democracy? Vance could say anything he wants and the same thing for Trump and get away with it. Maybe, but like, yeah, anything can. That's the thing. Anybody can say anything they want and get away with it. That's kind of the point of America. It's just that politicians usually don't say. It's that politicians used to be held way more to account for the crazy shit that they said by way more of the people. And that danger hasn't really existed for about 15, 20 years now. But, you know, and really it wasn't Trump that discovered this, by the way. It was Barack Obama. It was Barack Obama who figured out that you could say whatever the fuck you wanted to. You realize Barack Obama was on a fucking stage making, well, not making jokes directly, but having, like, he did it was the White House Correspondents Center. I don't remember which one, but in one of the White House Correspondents Center, he had this dude standing behind him who was like a hype man, who was like the angry version of him or something like that. And one of the jokes that was made in that was, that's why we're running for a third term. And Obama, you know, turns to him and he's like, no, we're not. But that joke was made. All kinds of other jokes were made too. I think Obama participated in a roast of Donald Trump. And I've always wondered, by the way, if that's not what started the whole, like, okay, I'm going to ruin America then. I've always wondered if that contributed to it, but I don't know. Because the birther thing did start before that. But point is, this sort of rhetoric was not started by Trump, or at least not this sort of idea that you can say whatever the fuck you want and get along with it as long as you're charming. That sort of thing, I would argue, was started by Barack Obama. Barack Obama was the first savvy, hip, cool president that America had. And Trump just basically took this, like, okay, so this super high level of, like, absolutely presidential decorum that even George Bush, of all people, tried his best to bring to the presidency, that's no longer the standard anymore. Look at what Obama did. Look at what Obama was. He was a social media magnate. He was the first president that tweeted. He was the first president to have a BlackBerry. He was the first president to have a smartphone. You know, he was fucking with the times. He'd release a fucking Spotify playlist every year. And you're talking about, that's the last time we had a Democrat in office. And now look at what Trump is, right? So Trump is a dude that has literally garnered every single bit of support he's gotten, pretty much, on the back of social media. On the back of social media and the conventional media. His ability to get them talking about him. His ability to get them all in a kerfuffle about him. That is what has won Donald Trump the presidency. Now twice. And it's a tactic that he stole right from Obama. It's a tactic he had nothing to do with. He just looked at the last time the Democrats won and did that. But for some reason, after the Democrats did that strategy, they got bad at it. They got comfortable. They rested on their laurels, especially after they won against Trump in 2020. They got real comfortable again. They got comfortable after Obama's re-election. I think that's when libs and even some lefties got comfy. Key. I'm a bit confused about Trump and Elon's situation. Are they besties who go to Target on Sunday in Elon'S SpaceX Mobile? Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Trump and Elon are like, they're like a couple of middle school girls that, like, are best friends, but also, like, kind of hate each other. And so they will be like, we're not friends anymore for like 2 days. And then they'll be like, oh, we're friends again. Everything's cool. Everything's chill. Don't worry about what I said about her. LOL. And then they get mad at each other and then they drift apart again. And mainly it's because Trump has this special deal with all the kids in the lunchroom, right, to give him like an extra cookie once a week. And There's also like some cookies outlined in that deal for Elon, but there's not enough cookies outlined in that deal for Elon, and he's mad that there's not like enough cookies and milk boxes outlined in the lunchroom deal, you know? And so they're like fighting and feuding over it, and they'll pretend to make up for a couple of days, but really, you know, Elon just like she remains mad at Trump for all of this malfeasance. That's basically the situation. You know, Obama made a joke about Trump and really embarrassed him. He did. He did. And I've always wondered if that's where it all started. They refused to run an inspiring candidate after Obama left. 100%. Dems always pull their punches. Yep. Oh, well, I banned Twitter to get revenge, but we're friends again. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But yeah, Dems do not want to run an inspiring candidate, and they don't want to admit, by the way, that an inspiring candidate is one who calls the bullshit for what it is. An inspiring candidate is not one who hints at the bullshit. An inspiring candidate is not one who says, we are going to move forward, and we will be unburdened by what has been. Like, that did not inspire a single fucking emotion except regret, bro. Oh, thank you, by the way, Eli, for the 99 cents. I do appreciate that. By the way, if anybody else wants to send a super chat, that is the best way to support the channel and tell us you like us, what we're doing over here. It's just a really good way to do that. It's also a good way to get your chat out there. If you want to make sure that your chat gets read and you feel like it's not getting read for some reason, consider doing that because it's a great way to make sure that it does get read. I'm going to reduce the subscriber time to 1 minute so that it's a little bit easier for people to interact. Do not come. America will continue to enforce our borders. Our border policy has not changed. Do not come. Yep. Famous quote from Kamala that neither the Republicans nor the Democrats really want to contend with. You see, the Republicans really have not come to terms with the fact that the Democrats no longer hold a leftist position on the border. And so Republican rhetoric when it comes to the Democratic position on the border is about 20 years out of date. About 20 years out of date. I mean, the Democrats have been radically anti harsh border security measures and shit up until the 2020 and 2024 elections. The 2020 elections was the first time when some major Democratic candidates toyed around with the idea of being a little harder on the border, right? And Joe Biden was one of those candidates, and he ended up winning out, right? Then in 2024, you have Joe Biden running on a strong border policy. You have Kamala Harris repeating that same strong border policy and making quotes like that. Do not come. That's not a Democrat. That's a fucking Republican. That's a fucking Republican. I don't like what is the fact that she's Indian and Jamaican clouding you guys from seeing that she's a fucking repub? Californiacs knows how to party. Californiacs is in my chat. We are doing the things that need to be done to achieve the things that need to be done. Yeah, exactly, dude. Yeah. And a dozen other quotes by a zanned out retard on the national stage, you know? Thank you for the $1.99. I appreciate that. When did you last shave? I shaved like 4 hours ago, I think. What you might be perceiving as a 5 o'clock shadow is, as you can see, just like the light. Here, hold on. See how the light glints perfectly and shinily off the bottom of my face? No, Eli, you only get to say fucked up, rude things if you're paying. No. You know the rules. If you're going to talk hateful shit, pay up. Let me see another one of them $2. I'm waiting. I'm waiting to hear that cash register ding. I ain't heard a ding yet. No, 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 no. You trying to get more out of the deal than you paid for. You paid for me to say what was in that one chat. Now, if you want to say more hateful shit, check out, bitch. Hit that button. I don't think he's gonna do it. I wonder why. Phoebe, when you say my name, please call me Callie. Okie dokie, I can do that. Californiacs probably is pretty weird, but you know, it's how your name is spelled, so it's what occurred to me. No, no, I'm done. Not hateful. It's true. You were smart as fuck. Well, thanks. But no, I don't know. I shaved today, so I don't know why you're like, I don't know what you're saying that you think is hair, but we just demonstrated that it literally can't be because I'm as shiny as a fucking bowling ball down there. This trans thing is so odd. I think it's only odd because a lot of people don't have exposure to it. Like, a lot of people have never met a trans person, and so it's like stranger to them than it is for me. You know, for me, it's just like my everyday life. I don't really think about it that much. You know, like outside of these conversations, I hardly ever think about the fact that I'm trans unless I'm like in public and I think someone's looking at me and it occurs to me that they might be looking at me weird because I'm trans. Then I think about it. But outside of that, it's pretty much just these, you know, just these conversations, you know? Who gives a fuck when somebody's shaved? I tend to agree, but for some reason, some people think that that's the most interesting fucking thing in the whole world. Do you live in a progressive city? I actually live in the deep south, if you can believe it. I live in the deep south and I don't live in the city at all. I grew up in Georgia. I grew up between Mississippi and Missouri. So, um, when I was 14, my parents divorced, and I moved to Missouri, and lived most of my like the rest of my life there. And then I started traveling around the United States, living in a minivan around age 22. But yeah, being raised between Missouri and Mississippi gave me two very different perceptions of life. You know, but it was one of the most, I don't know, horizon broadening things that I've been through in my life. I wouldn't have nearly the amount of perspective that I do if it had not been for the fact that I've lived in two different places. I've seen how life works in two different states, and that's one of the reasons I think why I've got so much leftist advocacy, right? Because to some degree, I like, here's the thing: when it comes to a lot of the shit that I talk about with leftist advocacy, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about when it comes to a lot of shit. But there are things that I feel really fucking confident about, and it's those things that I try to talk about the most. You know, like, I'm really confident in universal health care. I'm really confident in infrastructure renewal. I'm really confident in the idea of, like, appropriating tax money correctly, doing it right, having accountability in that, and applying it well. Using it for good things, using it to empower your communities, using it to improve communities, using it to better the things than the services and the services they have access to, and the infrastructure that they use to go about their day. I think improving these things is fundamentally improving the world, and I've seen the difference. I've seen the difference in a state that properly accounts for its tax money and tax revenue, make sure everybody's paying their fair share. I've seen the difference between a state like that and a state that doesn't give a fuck. You know, because Mississippi doesn't give a fuck. Mississippi actively fucking, literally, Mississippi has just wasted. I'm not even kidding. You can go look it up. Mississippi has literally wasted thousands of dollars in federal aid money on bullshit. Millions of dollars, in fact. Millions of dollars in Mississippi have been wasted by various people at various levels in the government on bullshit. Literally, millions. Like, there was this big famous case somewhere in Jackson where some big state official managed to strike this fucking deal. It's some shadowy shit that basically involved like, I don't know, like $15 million or something being funneled into a new stadium to be built in the rich part of town. And it was all like federal grant money that had been given for disaster relief or some shit. So, I've just seen the difference. I've seen the difference between a state that's just ran by a bunch of scumlords that don't give a fuck about the people in their state, that could give a fuck less about their constituents, like that. I've seen the difference between a place like that, right, and a place like Missouri, where at the very fucking least, they don't maintain a constant budget deficit. They actually maintain a budget surplus, from what I understand. At least that was the case when I was in high school. Maybe it's changed now, but back when I was in high school, Missouri managed a budget surplus, which means we produced way more shit than we fucking relied on. Like we were not only paying off our debts, but our state was actually making revenue. Our state was able to generate revenue and use that to empower future projects. Like how a state should be ran, You go where you can go where it's convenient. Exactly. Rep Fav, yeah, exactly. Thank you. Took money from low-income programs to get a volleyball arena built for his daughter in college. Is that the dude I'm thinking of, Trevor? Is that the Mississippi politician I'm thinking of? Because that name sounds fucking goddamn familiar. And I might be getting where the source came from. Because taking it from low-income families actually does sound correct now that I think about it. Yes, okay, so yeah, it was Brett Fav. This fucking... I don't remember what position he was in, but yeah, he took money from low-income programs and got a volleyball arena built for his fucking daughter who was in college. Yeah, so his daughter was apparently more important than low-income children's right to eat. His daughter and her comfort while she plays volleyball was apparently more fucking important than low-income people being able to feed themselves, put a roof over their heads, take their kids to school, take their kids to the doctors, etc. It just goes to show you the utter fucking villainy that is omnipresent throughout the power structure of the South. Omnipresent. It has to be rooted out like a tick. These people are ticks. These people are ticks. These people are leeches. These people need to be out. This is one reason why I think that people like me and people like you, Trevor, and other people that see the fucking game that's underfoot need to stay in the South and fix shit here, because it's not going to get any better if we leave these motherfucking fascists to continue to oppress old ladies and poor people and little kids. They're just going to do it. They're just going to fuck over their workers even harder. They're just going to take food stamps away from even more people. They're just going to end housing programs for even more people. So fuck them and fuck that. It is time for the South to come together, because we are not all a bunch of bigoted ass backwards Republicans. I know that to be a fact. And I know that, frankly, there's a lot of bigoted ass Republicans that would really rather the state not waste a bunch of money on a fucking volleyball court when there's low income children to feed. I know there's motherfuckers like that out there. I know they exist. I've talked to them. So we need to come together and fucking put some of this shit aside and decide, where the fuck do we have to fucking stop the bleeding? Dude, we have to stop the bleed. There's no fucking excuse for this shit. There's no fucking excuse for all of the rich, juiced-in fucking state government people in every fucking city in this state to be driving fucking Mercedes-Benz cars, to be driving fucking G-Wagons and shit, when the poorest people in those counties can't even afford a car. In a city where you have to fucking drive to be able to get back and forth from work, they're walking half a mile every day. Walking 2 miles every day, 4 miles every day just to get back and forth from work. Shit is fucking absurd. My Republican papa would agree with you on that one. That's what I'm saying. My Republican dad would agree with me on that one. You know what I mean? Yeah, you can make the most change by changing the ones around you, not trying to reach everyone. 100%. I mean, Ultimately, people who love you and trust you are going to take you way more seriously than random people on the internet. Yeah, I do some advocacy work here, but a lot of what I do here is just changing one mind at a time by planting a little bit of a seed that may not ever sprout to begin with. But if it does sprout, it's not going to be in front of me. I'm not going to get to watch the tree grow. I'm just going to watch to get the neat. No, I'm kidding. I would never say that. But seriously, though, you don't get to watch that plant grow and become something fruitful. You get to watch that person continue to be obstinate, and then eventually they just kind of disappear, and then they come back under a different name, acting like they agreed with you the whole time. That's the great part. I'm currently alone because I'm waiting for a bus, and none of my friends came. Aww, that's sad. Well, Kelly, you have me. They say our love will pay the rent before we've paid. Our money's all been spent. Well, I don't know if all that's true, but you got me, and baby, I got you. Babe, I got you, babe. I got you, babe. I got you, babe. Man, that's a hard song to snap to. Do you believe in good? Do I believe in good? Yes. I think you meant, do I believe in God? Do I believe in good, bro? No. Do I believe in objective good? Hell no. But do I believe in good relative to my situation? Yes. Do I believe that, a societal good exists insofar as we can, okay, yes, if you define, oh my God, this is such a difficult concept, and it's probably not even the question you were trying to ask, but I'm going to answer it like it was anyway. Do I believe in good? Well, I believe that good is a very useful concept for human society because I rather enjoy being alive and being able to do the things that I like doing. And I kind of think that enjoyment might be the only purpose in life. If there is a single purpose in life, if there's anything to be derived like a purpose to life, it is to enjoy yourself. Literally, that's my life philosophy if there is one. Everything in my life philosophy, you really want to tie down, you want to find my axiom, you want to figure out where do Phoebe's beliefs emanate from. I just think people have a right to feel good. That's it. That my politics emanate from that one standpoint, that one belief. I like to feel good. I think that the purpose of life, if there is one, is to feel good, and that human society should be oriented towards ensuring that as many people can feel good as often as possible. I'm just sat on a bench on my own, and then Zach said, "Be careful, Callie. You actually don't really need to be that careful. I mean, you need to always be vigilant. Anytime you're in public, you always need to be vigilant. That's one of the ways that you avoid becoming a victim, honestly. All this shit that you hear about tactical vests and handguns and all that other stupid shit, don't worry about none of that. Dude, that shit's not going to save you in a real fucking life or death situation. What's going to save you in a real life or death situation is compliance. And that sounds fucked up, but if somebody's got a gun to your head, unless you're a trained martial artist, or unless you know for a fact that that gun isn't actually loaded, you are way better dealing with that person until you see an opportunity to run away, to get away, to call for help, etc. That's how most people go through those situations without getting shot. I happen to know somebody who actually went through a situation like that. It's exactly what he did, didn't get shot. So, outside of a situation like that, one of the ways you prevent yourself from becoming a statistic like that is by don't allow yourself to be distracted too overly much. It's okay to look at your phone every so often, but every 15 20 seconds be looking up, be looking around, analyze the land around you. Even if you really aren't taking that much of it into yourself, look like you know what the fuck is going on, and like you're paying attention. That by itself will save you from a bunch of fucking situations, because If somebody sees somebody else pulling a gun on them, especially if they're coming at them from like 20, 15 feet away, or if they see somebody like coming at them in a sus way, like they're holding something in their coat that could be a gun, that person is way likely to fucking get the fuck out of Dodge, or to just scare the other person by virtue of their fucking knowing what's going to go on and what's happening, right? And shit can go way wild if shit doesn't go exactly right in a mugging attempt, right? And that can protect you. So when it comes to like, I don't know, I don't like this idea that some people are too scared to even go out, right? I'm not saying that anybody was saying that. I feel like that sort of sentiment reflects a fear in the American people that I really don't feel like is all that justified. The fact of it is, America is way less of a violent place than it used to be. You're way less likely to get mugged in 2025 than you were in 1995. I mean, that's just statistical fact, right? Like, you're way less likely to be, have violence committed against you in any way in 2025. You're way less likely in 2025 than to have that same thing committed against you 30 years ago. Like, crime rates are way the fuck down. Way the fuck down. Oh, someone else is coming to the bus stop? Oh, look at you. Look at you go. No, my name is Callie. Nice, nice. Dude, that's a cute name. I love that. That's such a cute name. I love it. I love it. I love it. True, I just had a weird interaction with people recently, so it's on my mind. The 70s to 90s were way more violent. Yeah, they 100% were. Sorry, by the way, Riley, that I did not see your super chat earlier. That was my bad. Let me see here. True, I just had a weird interaction with people recently. So, yeah, I get that. And I was definitely the same way after I got robbed in Cape Girardeau. I was definitely the same way after there was this really fucking weird situation where I feel like me and my road dog were like one wrong move away from getting raped. And we avoided. Yes, we survived the encounter. But I don't even know what to call that, dude. A dude saw we were smoking weed, got in and rolled up a blunt and was passing it around, and then asked if we wanted to do any coke. And then he was showing my road dog in the back something. I don't know exactly what it was, but later I found out it was porn. And yeah, so I have no fucking doubt in my mind that if we had gone fully down the rabbit hole with that person, that we would have ended up having some very non-consensual experiences at the end of that. I think it literally, that is one of those things that makes me wonder if there's not some sort of karmic divine energy out there that sometimes protects its favored, because I don't know how the fuck we survived that without with nothing. I mean, it was really so uneventful. I mean, the dude wasn't like pushy about it other than showing porn to a person who never asked to see porn. Like, but he'd also like been showing off his gun and shit, so none of us wanted to confront him directly because none of us had a gun. So that's why it was such a tense situation. People are probably wondering, like, why the fuck didn't you say anything? It's like, well, you know, the power dynamics in that moment were not great. But when we said, when we started yawning, both of us, and we were like, man, I'm sorry, but we got to make some more miles before the night is over, so we are unfortunately going to have to leave you. We'll have to take this up some other time. And after a couple of pleas like that, just saying, yeah, but, yeah, well, nah, yeah. Finally, he took no for an answer and got out of the van. And we didn't actually leave, or at least we didn't go far. But I did get back on the interstate and go, I think, 10 miles east to another rest area. Because because that happened in a Walmart parking lot. And that was where we were going to sleep that night. But after that encounter, we were both just kind of like skeeved out and shit. So I'm going to scroll up a little bit. Glad you aren't at the Greyhound in Newark, New Jersey. Why? Is the Greyhound in Newark like particularly dangerous? What do you think? What do you think the best decade to be alive in human experience? Um, what do you think the best decade to be alive in human history? I think it's the best decade to be alive in human history. Huh. I don't know. The best decade to be alive in human history. Define best. Because best can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Hey Phoebes, have you ever had an experience or credible concern of your internet presence impacting your job or personal life? Let me think here. Um, no, not really. No. No, but I'm also smart about my internet presence. Like, the beautiful thing about it is, like, the only reason Alchemist Oil currently has somebody out there that desperately wants to publish his name and face, which, in my opinion, is like, um, I mean, I really don't know if that would be doxing or not. I'm not a fucking civil rights lawyer. I'm not a fucking privacy lawyer. I don't know. You know, but I do know that taking a giant collection of someone's posts and heavily implying that it's a person that we all know the name of and the association of, but that nobody knows because of their own participation in like super like broad facing public content, right? Um, I mean, like you have to admit that what Alchemist Oil did fits the definition of doxing as provided by the American Heritage Dictionary. And if turnabout is fair play, then, like, it's kind of hard to have a whole lot of empathy for Alchemist Oil if he does have his name and face fucking doxed. If he does have his name and face revealed, it's kind of hard to have a little fucking empathy for him, considering the fact that he literally started his channel with a giant deep dive through Amelia's post history, basically doxing where Paul moved to, basically doxing where Paul was considering moving to, doxing details about Paul's marriage life and personal details and shit like that. So, but what I was going to say is that if you're not like that, if you're not trying to be some shadowy, hidden person, people really don't feel nearly as much need to go down some giant fucking rabbit hole or put out some giant fucking effort to find all your information. I'm way too much of an open book for there to be any scuttlebutt about that, right? Like, and two, everybody probably recognizes that there's nothing to be, like, I don't do anything on my channel, I'm not out here talking crazy shit, and I've never associated myself super directly with any of the workplaces I've had. I'll talk about the places I've worked, but I don't like brand myself as somebody that represents that company. So like I've worked for Taco Bell before and people know that. I've worked for a restaurant called Catfish Kettle in Farmington, Missouri. People know that. I've worked for Walmart before. People know that. I worked for the Eastern Reception Diagnostic and Correctional Center in Bonne Terre, Missouri. People know that. I've called it out by name and city, so there's just nothing to find out about me. I'm too open about my life for any of it to be used against me. Let me see here. What do you think the correct decade to be alive in human history was? Oh yeah, we're still going to answer that one. Because of the implication, yeah. Yeah, yikes. I've been in weird situations where it's really tense, but nothing technically happened too. But your nervous system's still acting up. Yeah, dude, you're still in that fight or flight mode, and it can be fucked up to be in that for a while. How about none of the above? Yeah, that's kind of where I'm leaning too. And I'm about to have a controversial take on the whole "what was the best decade to be alive" thing. I don't think you guys are ready for it, but be ready. In the Matrix, the machines set the simulation during what they considered to be humanity's peak, the year 1999. There's the answer. It would have been fun to be in Chicago in the 30s. No, it would not have. No, it would not have, dude. All the shit people romanticize about Chicago in the 30s has to do with being a rich fucking mobster. The vast majority of people in Chicago in the 30s were not rich mobsters. They were fucking poor ass teamsters and meat packing fucking workers and steel workers and shit like that, making bullshit wages. A lot of them were out of work because of the Great Depression. A lot of them actually relied on soup kitchens provided by people like Al Capone. So, yeah, no, you would not want to be in Chicago in the 30s. If anything, if you were going to pick the 30s to be somewhere, you want to be somewhere in the Southeast. Not even kidding. You want to be somewhere in the Southeast because you know what? People in the Southeast were able to continue growing vegetables all throughout the Great Depression, and therefore were not hit nearly as hard by the results of it. If you lived in an area where, or if your family was already farming, like if you were already like smallholder farmers or something like that, you could pretty much get through the Great Depression. You had less access to the stuff that you used to have more access of. You had less sugar, so you couldn't, you couldn't make sweet tea or stuff like that. You had to save the sugar for making jellies and preserving fruit. That way, you had the nutritional benefits of that fruit throughout the year. And yeah, it required scraping and saving just like being anywhere else did, but you weren't dependent on a soup kitchen if you were a southern farmer during the Great Depression. If you were a southeastern farmer, you weren't really worried about that sort of thing. You could provide your own food, and a lot of times you could provide your own food at a bit of an excess, like at a bit of a surplus, considering, what the broader country is going through. Who is Autistic Soil? Alchemist Oil, some dumbass that okay, so I am like the unofficial protege. No, I'm just kidding. No, but seriously, there is a YouTuber that I've got an association with named Paul Zigo that graciously offered to come on my stream and have an argument with Alchemist Oil, who is his most preeminent hater, literally the most well-known of the 30 or 40 dorks that really give a shit about actively hating on Paul Zigo. Much bigger YouTuber than I am, has more of a internet presence and shit, and has therefore garnered a snark community that's pretty sizable compared to a lot of, snark communities of people his size. It doesn't really have that many people in it if you consider how passionate the people within the subreddit are. You would think that everybody in the fucking world just hates these dudes, but no. And the truth of it is there's like 30 to 40 active people who participate in all the different avenues of discussion on the snark subreddits and discords and shit like that. There's like 30 to 40 people that give a shit. Alchemist Oil is one of those, and he's the only one of those who has been brave enough to put even their voice behind the shit that they say. That Alchemist Oil is fiercely defensive of the idea of their face or name being appended to their internet content, because unlike me, they've got some deep sense of privacy, some deep unearned sense of privacy that they for some reason feel deeply for themselves, but feel not at all for Amelia or anybody else. For some reason, Paul's wife, who I can tell is like such a kind person, she was hanging out in here the other day, and we had such a fun conversation. Basically, using Paul's wife as a cudgel against him, like a piece of fucking muckraking garbage, literally, just like a piece of fucking dumpster trash garbage human being. And that, for the record, is why I was biased in my moderation, because he's a belly crawling worm who deserved every fucking word he got yelled at him. Shout out, Paul. That's bottom of the barrel. I know, dude. Literally, below bottom of the barrel shit. We're talking motherfucker got to the bottom of the barrel and started working at it with a chisel. Yes, there are dozens of us. Dozens! Yeah, there probably are. Like 2 or 3 dozen, yeah. Just like there are like 2 or 3 dozen people that hang out in my streams, even at the most boring fucking section of them. Literally 2 hours in, it's the cream of the crop as far as these streams are concerned. And that's about how many people we get hanging out in here, you know? Like... Bro, my view numbers, literally, I will get more views sometimes in the first hour of me streaming live than Alchemist has gotten in the entire history of his channel. And I'm not kidding. I will regularly do better than Alchemist Oil within an hour of beginning a stream than he has done in the entirety of his entire channel. Think about that for a fucking second. Think about that for a second. Oh man! If I was in AS's position, I would never speak to me again. But actually, to AS's credit, he's far more gracious than that. I think he's got a little bit of a humiliation fetish. That's a cell phone on his part. I know. But hey, far be it from me to get in the way of good content, man. Imagine being a part of that movement with the dream of international solidarity of workers. I would have been a wobbly. I know it would have sucked. Oh, dude, you can still be a wobbly. There's still a fucking... It's weak, but we still exist. See? World's fucked. What is it? World sucks. There's a sticker that I used to... distribute back in North Adams, and now I can't remember how it went. It's like, country sucks, world's on fire, join the union, something like that. Did you go to a No Kings protest? No, my dumbass couldn't attend. There was one kind of close to us, but it was like an hour and a half away, and I just straight up didn't have the gas money to go, so it is what it is. I don't know, I feel shameful because I want to attend. I want to do shit like that, but I just, like, I can't help that the closest place they had some organizing going down was in a town way far away from me, you know? Negative sent 100. I don't know what that means. It looks like I got 1 ruby, maybe? I don't know. I don't know what those translate to. Imagine being a part of that movement. Oh yeah, dude. Here's the thing. The Wobblies still exist. The problem is the Wobblies have gotten to a point in history where, thanks to COINTELPRO and other infiltration attempts and things like that, the wobbly movement is not what it used to be. There are not nearly as many wobblies as there used to be, and the wobbly movement is not as effective as it used to be at getting people, effectively at getting people on the strike line and getting them the concessions that they need. It's not to say that IWW doesn't have successes anymore, they do. But it's a movement that you need to understand that the quality of it is going to be largely branch dependent, and that if you join a branch of low quality, it's up to you to be a part of making that better. Run for the offices within that organization, get more people to join, especially that feel like you. And honestly, when it comes to the Wobblies, the broad fucking base of history that we have to work with is such a boon, right? Because when you become a wobbly, you get access to, and yeah, sure, there's a little red card fee every month, but once you become like a card carrying worker of the world, you are part of a group that's going to be able to hook you up with knowledge about all sorts of workers' movements from all over the fucking world, all sorts of different grassroots movements. There's a bunch of IWW literature about getting people organized and getting people on the strike line and keeping people fed on the strike line and all these other things. There's a wobbly cookbook, for Christ's sakes. Literally. So, yeah, you can still be a part of the wobbly movement. And in fact, I'm begging you to go be a part of the wobbly movement. Because if I ever get to the point where I have enough money, I'm going to pay up my red card fees, because I'm about 2 years behind right now. And I'm going to start organizing on their behalf down here. Because I really do think that their movement has only died because a lot of people don't know that it still exists. He should have been here for the Holocaust or the genocide going on in Palestine or 9/11, but instead Jesus chose to save a common rapist. Yeah, it does make you wonder, you know. I tell you, though, this Jesus fella, you don't need him. You need me. Jesus has some great ideas. Don't get me wrong. Jesus had perhaps the earliest ideas for a more equitable society. But you know what Jesus was also? An instrument, ultimately, of subjugation of the proletariat. I offer you salvation, true salvation, not salvation reached after death, not salvation that comes when you die. Salvation in the here and now. Workers and employers have nothing in common. Jordan Rogers is reading the preamble to the IWW Constitution, I think. Am I right, Jordan? Did you look up the preamble to the IWW Constitution? Or did you happen to find it when you were looking things up? I knew it. God wanted the other football team to lose. High five. There you go. Yeah, exactly. God wanted that other football team to lose, god damn it. By the way, if anyone wants to super chat, we normally have a stream, like a nightly, I guess you could call it nightly or daily earnings goal of $50, and today we have only done a crushing $15.94, counting the earlier stream. So you have a long way to go, and if you don't make it, it is what it is. But I'm letting everybody know, I'm throwing it out there into the room so that it's known. Of course, there's so few people in here at this point that probably everybody who would have super chatted to, just fling some horse shit or whatever, they're probably gone. Usually you can get a couple of those if you say it at the right moment. God wanted me to win those $5 on hard rock bets. Dude, yes. God wanted you to. A super chat horse? Oh, dude, I'm a super chat whore for sure. Why do Christians think the end is near? Is it because shit's so fucked up? No, I wish it was. Would that it were. But the real reason why Christians think the end is near, you want to hear it? Do you want to hear it? The real reason why Christians think the end is near is because the Bible says the end is supposed to be near. It's because the followers of Jesus thought he was going to come back in their lifetimes for a second time. Literally. The book is why. The Christians think the end is near because a literal interpretation of Revelation requires you to believe that the end is near. And so every fucking generation, literally every generation, every preceding generation of Christians thinks they're the last ones. They think they're the ones who are going to get to witness Jesus riding down on a great fiery unicorn and taking all the people that he likes back up to heaven. They think they're going to be the generation that gets to witness that, and so they will make every argument that their fucking particular time is, like the end is nigh. that the end is nigh trope has been an aspect of American cities literally since the 30s. You can see people referencing that trope in movies from the 30s and 40s. So Christians have been saying that the end is nigh in that exact language for at least 100 years. I mean, but you look at all kinds of times throughout history, there are all kinds of Christian scholars who part of their scholarship includes all of this shit about preparing for the coming end times. And in fact, ironically, a lot of their predictions, them saying that the end times are about to be near, is ironically used by Christians as proof that the end times are near now, when in fact, the end is nigh people were using even earlier examples of that very thing. So it's just like a continually self-justifying thing. In the mind of a Christian saying the end is near is justification to keep thinking the end is near for a few years. So the end is just perpetually near. They'll say the end is near until the heat death of the universe, and then if there's something like a soul left after that, they'll be bragging to all the other souls about how they saw it coming, even if it's 2 million years from now. It's so counterproductive, bro. Oh, well, yeah, 100%. They allow everything to burn because it's going to happen anyway. Yeah, dude, and that's one of those aspects about Christianity people don't talk about nearly enough, is that it's a death cult, like somebody else was saying. Christianity is a death cult, and so anything that isn't contributing directly to the glory of God in their minds is as good as being dead, as good as being useless, as good as being a non-participant in society, right? Being a participant in society in the mind of a true fundamentalist Christian is not being a good neighbor, being a good person in your neighborhood, helping the poor, all that shit. No. Everything you do in your life, according to a fundamentalist Christian, should be to prepare you for the next life. And some of that may include almsgiving, some of that may include some charitable work, some of that may include volunteering, but a lot of it is just going to be shit that is directly tied in to some kind of church function, shit that is directly tied in to your religion, because the whole fucking focus of it is, and it's also really convenient too, because even non-fundamentalist Christians, even people who just want to wave the flag of fundamentalism, but don't want to do all the fundamentally kind of shit that is in that Bible, right? So people that they want to let their wives have wine every night, and they want to drink their whiskey at night, and they want to drive their you want to drive their big ostentatious SUV, and they want to live in their big McMansion, and so they look at the Bible as a source of narratives that can justify that. One of the narratives they always go with is, well, the world is going to burn. Like, the world is supposed to burn. If the world is burning, then that's God's will. And if this is contributing to it, then I'm doing God's will. So now it's not just that they're not doing enough because of God. Now they're actively sabotaging. Now they're actively sabotaging our health and happiness on God's behalf. Revelation says a bunch of vague shit you can interpret for anything. They didn't mean horses, they meant tanks. Flaming chariots are really fighter jets. Exactly. And if you look at medieval Christians talking about it, it's they didn't mean horses, they meant or let's say you're talking about a Renaissance era Christian. Well, they didn't mean just horses. They meant cavalry charges, or they meant like if you're talking about maybe like if you take like mid 19th century. Isn't it weird that the 19th century is the 1800s and the 20th century is the 1900s? That doesn't make any sense to me. And the 21st century is the fucking 2000s. That doesn't make a lick of goddamn sense. Literally. Not a lick of goddamn sense to me. Anyway, but during the 19th century, if you look at Christians back then, Victorian era Christians would have been saying, oh, well, they didn't mean horses. They meant they meant steam engines, and they meant the like rudimentary kind of cars that were being used to supply things and shit like that. They didn't mean when they say flying chariots, what they're really talking about are the flaming balls of material that are now used as siege weapons or whatever the fuck. You go back through you go back through Christian history, you see all kinds of different justifications for revelation being something that's going to happen in our lifetime. There you go, bingo. I always hated that. The first century starts after zero. You can't say the 0th century. Wait a minute. What? Then we should just call it the early years. Yeah, we just call it the early years, man. No more of this 19th century actually means 1800 shit. I can't remember this. I can't keep this shit in my fucking head. Bro, we're just going to call it the early years from now on. We're going to change this whole shit up right now. I'm sorry that you guys had to learn about it on a 14 viewer nothing stream, but the rules of the world just changed, okay? The 1900s are the 19th century. The 2000s are the 20th century. The 1800s are the 18th century. And the years between 0 AD and 99 AD are the early years. TEY if you want to abbreviate, okay? Has everybody accepted this change? Thank you, someone with sense. It's because you've made it 1800s, you're working on the 19th century. The math on this makes my fucking brain want to melt, man. I don't like this shit, dude. Sometimes I feel like such a fucking alien when I'm navigating the English language, and especially its relationship to numbers. Because I get logically why it makes sense, kind of, I think, right? Because like that person said, you can't have a zeroist, century. I get it, but it just sounds wrong to call it the first century. But it is the first century because, right, it's the first 100 years, which century is 100 years. So the years between 0 and 100 would have to be the first century, which would make... That still don't make no sense, though. No. That still don't make a goddamn lick of sense. No, yeah, it does. Like, this is what I mean. You remember earlier when I said that I don't know literally a fucking thing about what I'm talking about when it comes to some shit? This is one of those examples of a time where I have literally just been stumped by simple math. Literally, just by, like, the simple relationship of numbers to one another has stumped me. After one comes two. Dude, you're now having to teach me math like I'm 3. I'm not a fan, This conversation is revealing me as the moron that I am. Can we move on? I'm kidding. You're being pedantic? I'm not even trying to, though. I literally am just saying I'm literally just admitting that it makes no sense to me, but I recognize that it should. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying you're right, but that it doesn't make a goddamn lick of sense to me. And I think that might just be because my brain is small and very smooth. The 2000th decade. As in 1998, because apparently that's how shit works. No, I don't know. I was born in the late ass, like literally the twilight hours of the 90s. Brought up in the early 2000s. I represent that very unique childhood enjoyed by late millennials / early Zoomers. Dude, the world has changed so fucking much in just my lifetime alone. Dude, it is so fucking wild to think about the fact that when I was a kid, right? I'm just thinking about how much shit is going to be different for my son, you know, when he's like even just a few years younger than I am now. Like, let's say when he's 21, like how different is the world going to be? Let's see what happened in the world between the time I was born and the time I turned 21. Let's just think about it. I was born in 1998. I turned 21 in August of 2019. In that time, the internet became an everyday household thing that everybody had. Went from being like a hobbyist thing very few people had any interest in or any access to being something everybody had. Um, cell phones became a thing that everybody had, and they were reliant on them to the point where they would get the newest model. So not just the introduction of the widespread smartphone, but also, or I'm sorry, the widespread cell phone, but also the introduction and adoption of the smartphone. I'm going to count that as, those are two advances, but I'm going to count them as one, just for the purposes of this exercise. I saw the rise of generative AI that went in 5 years from being able to make a really bad picture of Will Smith eating spaghetti that looked like a fucking space opera to now being able to literally recreate it like he's eating a bowl of spaghetti at a fucking Italian restaurant somewhere in Las Vegas or some shit. Let's see. There's VR that, at least to me, feels very realistic. Not realistic necessarily, but it very much has done a good job of mimicking the feel of like as if you're in another different area. That's why people get so into it, you know. So the rise of VR, video game consoles went from things where the image was pretty pixelated or everything was very polygonal to, I mean, you think about Red Dead Redemption 2, it was released before 2019 or released in 2019, I don't remember. But you think about how beautiful that game is. I mean, if you max out that game's settings and everything, it's one of the most beautiful games you can fucking play. It's one of the most beautiful games you can find footage of. All of the little details in that game. Think about that. So it went from Wind Waker to Red Dead Redemption 2. Okay? So that's 5 things just in my lifetime that have gone completely on their head since I was a little kid. I mean, think about how much music has changed. Just, you know? I don't know. Aging is weird, and I've started thinking about it in a different way ever since my son was born, because it just seems like everything, like we've got so much less time now. And I mean, I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a kind of sad way. I mean, like, before it didn't really matter to me that I only had like 40, 50, 60 years max left on this earth. Now it kind of does. Because it's like, you know, now I want to see what the kid does, you know? I gotta know. God damn. I was born when the Gipper was in office. The Gipper. Who was the Gipper? Actually, I remember this slightly as well. I actually don't think people think of this whole timeline. It's bizarre. All my favorite bands are doing 20th anniversary tours. Time flies. I know, dude. I know. Literally, you look at all the fucking great bands of the early 2000s, and a lot of them are doing 20th anniversary tours, planning 20th anniversary tours, or have already done them. Think about it. My Chemical Romance already did theirs. You know, one of the biggest bands of the early 2000s, and they've already done their. And yeah, somebody else said we don't think of this timeline very much. Yeah, we don't. Because I mean, we have been trained by the media that we watch, the news we consume, all this other shit, the conversations we've had. We are trained by all of this shit to not really think about anything other than what's going on right now, what's happening right now, what's right this second, what's happening tomorrow. You know, and when that's all you're thinking about, it can become kind of hard to step back and really think about what is actually, like, what, not what's going on right now, but what has happened up to this point, and what has it actually led to, because that can tell you way more, honestly, than talking about the future can. Because talking about the future is all conjecture unless you're going to talk about the past, because the past is the best, because past behavior is the best indicator of future behavior, right? Very simple equation, easy to forget. Conditioning, another bingo. You're 100% right. Yeah, no. That sounded really arrogant, but yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah. It's conditioning, and it's fucked up too, right? Because it, like, that sort of conditioning and that resistance, I think, in Americans to have these sorts of deep conversations about our history and about how we got here and about what direction things should go. I think that they really don't want us to have that conversation, because they don't want us to ever question the choices that they've made for us in regards to technology. They don't want us to question the choices they've made us feel like we made for ourselves that really were made for us. The American people did not necessarily choose to adopt the cell phone. You know, the cell phone was popularly adopted by a lot of Americans, but it was still a pretty niche thing until 2020. 2020 was the year that allowed everybody to get a cell phone. It basically made people teach their grandmas how to use a smartphone. It basically made people teach themselves how to use a smartphone if they were old, if they were still young enough to teach themselves things. And as a result of that, now pretty much everybody has a cell phone. Before 2020, you pretty much would not find a smartphone in the hands of an old person. You pretty much would not find. I mean, you would, but it was much more rare. Now it's pretty much bog standard. I haven't seen someone with a flip phone in fucking forever. Not in about 5 years. That's what American tech companies excel at, by the way. American tech companies don't necessarily excel at selling you something that you want. They excel at creating needs that they then fill. Any favorite 2000s bands? Do you have any nostalgia for that time? I guess we were both kids. Any favorite 2000s bands? Honestly, I liked My Chemical Romance quite a bit. I was not into them at the time that they were big and super hugely popular, but I liked them quite a bit. Neck Deep, same thing. Uh, Here's the thing. During the 2000s, during like the era that most of the 2000s kind of music that people associate with that era was being made, I was like a little kid that was just listening to whatever my parents put on my playlist and shit. And my parents had good taste in music, but they didn't have like a modern taste in music. My mom's taste in music pretty much ended with stuff in the 90s, and my dad's taste in music pretty much ended with stuff in like the 70s and 80s. And as a result, I had a very outdated music taste when I finally started getting into my own stuff around age 14. So that would have been like 2012, 2013, something like that, when I actually started getting into music on my own. Um, but as far as bands from that era that I really like, or that I got into when I was younger, but still after their era, I would say, yeah, My Chemical Romance, Neck Deep. Um, is Blink considered an early 2000s band? They would be more like, I feel like they would be more like 90s, right? I only seen a flip phone on on Crime Simulator. Jesus, not gonna lie, I listened to Fleetwood Mac as a young one. I felt like a weirdo, dude. I still to this day listen to some Fleetwood Mac. I still to this day listen to some Fleetwood Mac. I listen to a bunch of old music. Honestly, you guys will hear me lapse into it sometimes as we're just sitting here talking. Like earlier when I was talking to Callie, and I was singing that one song by Cher. They say our love won't pay the rent before we're paid. Our money's all been spent. Well, I don't know if all that's true, but you've got me, and baby, I've got you. do, do, babe. That song's like 50 years old, bro, you know? So, don't feel like a weirdo for listening to classic music, because there's absolutely nothing wrong with classic music. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. Some of the best bangers ever written were written in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Give you another banger from the 70s. When I was a child down in South Carolina, soon as the Saturday sun came on down, my folks and sister would go and leave me home all alone, going to that big square dance in town. Well, my old radio would play that old Opry show, so I never got lonely or blue. I'd fall asleep in my chair and dream that I was right there, just a singing the whole night through. When my folks would come home, they'd be humming a song. Mama'd smile and say, "Child, don't you know there ain't a thing in this world to make you fall in love, girl, like that San Antonio Stone." And that song, you probably only know that if you had like a mom who listened to a lot of like old country and shit, but whatever. That's the kind of shit that I grew up on, you know? I believe that's on their first album. Nice. I think Damn It by Blink was on American Pie or some other teen movie. Yeah. Blink was 90s and 2000s. Oh, okay. If you come to the DFF meetup, I'll have to remember you like My Chemical Romance. I'm bringing a friend who is an expert on those guys. I'm not like a giant super fan of them, but I do like their music. Elton John, Queen, Luther Vandross, all openly gay dudes busted into mainstream. Pretty cool. Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, Freddie Mercury was like openly bi, you know. Not until after he busted out into the mainstream, but him coming out as bi didn't, you know, it didn't fuck up his chances or anything. But yeah, it is pretty cool. That's a great jingle right there. It is. It is a great jingle. You know what another great jingle is? Marvin, he was a friend of mine, and he could sing a song. His heart in every line. Marvin sang of the joy and pain. He opened up our minds, and I still can hear him say, "Oh, come with me, and you will see what's going on. Say we'll sing your songs forevermore, evermore, evermore. Now, gonna be some sweet sounds coming down on the night shift, on the night shift. I bet you're singing proud. I bet you'll pull a crowd. Gonna be a long night. It's gonna be alright on the night shift. On the night shift, you found another home. I know you're not alone on that night shift. dude. God, that is such a classic song. I don't know if you guys can see the fucking ghost pimples, but that song's a classic, bro. Was Liberace not openly gay? I think he was, yeah. Guitar time? Maybe. Hey, great convo. Wish I wasn't $700 in debt so I could chip it maybe next time. Dude, don't even trip, bro. Everybody's in a different economic situation. There'll be somebody with money to burn that'll come through eventually, you know? But, yeah, no. Sadly, I don't know that I feel like busting out the guitar tonight necessarily. But it is for a member, though. That is true. Sorry, I just got lost in my own head for a second. Double fist in the vapes, yes. Well, one of them is nicotine, one of them is THCA, so I literally cannot wait to get my life in order so I can get my medical card again. Bro. It needs to mean, I'm just going to say this, it needs to not be so motherfucking expensive to get your medical card. That is fucking ridiculous. But then again, it's just another example of healthcare in this country being gatekept behind a fucking giant paywall. If you're rich, you can do anything in this country. If you're poor, you got to pay out the fucking wazoo. That's the fucked up thing that gets me about it, too. Is that effectively, you make money just by being rich, but if you're poor, you have to pay for every fucking thing, you know? And it's always the fucking same rate. How much is your medical card? I really don't know. I don't know for sure right this second how much it costs. I know last time I looked it up, it was going to be like $300 to get the whole thing, to get the whole shebang. I know I'm in Mississippi, so if you're really fucking interested, you can, figure it out from there. I think probably. I think you'd probably be able to do just some, not like without even knowing the area I'm in. I think you'd be able to tell, but I don't remember off the top of my head what the current cost is if you go through every step, but I remember last time I looked into it, it's going to be a total cost of like $300 or some shit. It just gives us 10% off or something. Well, I'm in a state that's medical only. I'm in Mississippi, so you can get legal weed down here, and from my understanding, it's pretty dank weed, but you have to get it through the medical card if you're going to get like dispensary quality shit, or if you're going to get, go through the dispensaries in general. And so there's no like special discount or anything applied because, you have to be a medical consumer to get it. By the way, Mississippi will probably end up being one of the first medical states one of the first southern states to institute a recreational program. Hey, I want a response from the chat for this one. Which southern state do you guys think is going to be the first to legalize full rec weed? Because I think it's going to be Mississippi. I'm pretty sure it's either going to be Mississippi or Tennessee. Maybe Arkansas. Or maybe Oklahoma, but it's one of those four. And Oklahoma, I don't even know if we should count them because they're almost more Midwestern than they are Southern, honestly. Ooh, okay, my bad. That's right. We just got legal here, too. Oh, dude. Where are you at, Trevor? Dude, where are you at? Where are you at? Where are you at, playa? You in Missouri? Tennessee always had weird laws. Like, wait, does Tennessee have rec weed now? What? It's expensive to be poor. It 100% is. All I know is my state will be 50th. Oh, dude, do you live in Texas? Riley Weston must either live in Texas, Kansas, or Those are my guesses. Kansas or Texas. I was like, I'm sorry, my brain kind of broke because I really started to think, like, what are the other states that don't even have a medical program? And the more I thought about it, the less I came to any satisfactory answers. It's like Kansas, no, they don't have a medical program as far as I know. Texas, no medical program as far as I know. Uh, what other state doesn't have a medical program? I can't think of any other states. Maybe Iowa, maybe Idaho. Utah. Oh, okay. We have medical. The people voted for rec and the state said no. Oh, dude. Yeah, that shit is fucked up. Yeah, I heard about that shit. The state is fucking ran by Muslim. Not Muslim. I meant to say Mormon, dude, and I said Muslim. Yeah, Utah is run by Muslim fundamentalists. The Ayatollah is big over there. How do I have an audience? How do I have people that sit around and listen to my dumbass? Anyway, yeah, the Mormons, I've heard that because they're so fucking prevalent in Utah state legislature and in the government structure in general, that they basically prevented the people's will from becoming law over in Utah, which sucks. I thought I heard Oklahoma went legal. I'm in Ohio, which is legal, but the weed here is expensive and trash compared to Michigan, which is 10 miles from me. Oh, dude, that is one thing I will tell you that is sometimes like a growing pain that your state has to go through. I would say check back on your local dispensaries every so often, and keep updated on the weed laws in your state, because the fight doesn't end. A lot of people think, especially a lot of people that aren't actually involved in the activism when it comes to cannabis legislation. But as a person who was involved in some activism related to cannabis legislation in Missouri, I can tell you the fight does not end with the passage of the bill. The fight never ends effectively until you've ended the war on drugs, right? The fight doesn't end, that particular fight doesn't end until you've ended the war on drugs, and even then you have to keep fighting to make sure that conservative politicians keep their grubby paws off the fucking program, right? You have to do things like that, and you have to do, but it becomes a much more defensive type of labor after a certain point. We are still in the offensive stage when it comes to cannabis legislation. We are still in the stage where we are just trying to get cannabis legal in a lot of states, right? If you're a cannabis advocate, your main goal right now basically is to get cannabis legal, just baseline legal in as many states as possible. And that can take a lot of different forms. You know, legal with THC limits is still legal. Legal imperfectly is still legal, right? And it still makes a difference as to how people are policed and shit. It makes a difference whether or not a cop can pull over at your house because they see you sitting on your porch smoking a joint. It matters as to whether or not a cop can be called to your house for a welfare check or something like that, see weed or smell weed, and do anything about it, right? Because under a legal system, they can't, right? And under a system that allows prohibition or medical only, something like that can happen. So that's why the advocacy takes the form that it does, right? Step one is usually going to be getting medical cannabis legal in whatever state you're talking about, because that's the first step in the door. That allows at least people who can afford it to take themselves out of the running for who's going to get sent to jail tonight for owning a little bit of weed or for smoking a joint or whatever, right? You can take yourself out of that fucked up cursed lottery by participating in the medical system in a medical only state. And then the next step of the advocacy is obviously to bring forth some sort of full rec legalization. And then the next step after that advocacy is to expand that full rec legalization so that there are more places a person can smoke in public. You know, no more places than you can when you're smoking tobacco, but so that at least those freedoms are extended, right? So that people can't get fucked with for, like running their own local markets and shit like that, which some states have included that sort of thing as part of their licensing. Missouri is one of the states that does it, like micro retail and micro warehousing is what they call it. So, like, basically they legalized the plug, literally. Missouri legalized the plug and nobody's talking about it. But that sort of thing, ultimately, what I'm trying to get at is that sort of thing is where your fight's at. That sort of thing is where you need, where your heart should be at, right? Understanding that the fight doesn't end once you get the concession. The fight ends never. The fight effectively ends when you get all of your concessions, but even then, you're going to have to fight every so often to keep them. What's actually interesting is Tehran looks identical to Salt Lake City. Oh, dude. It wouldn't fucking surprise me at all. Tehran was actually a pretty fucking modern place until the Ayatollah took over, and even now is pretty a modern place. One of the things that people don't understand about the Iranian regime, right? They look at Iran, and they look at places that have been hit by Israeli missiles, and they look at places that have been left to rot, right? And they say, look at these places, these are so badly maintained, look at this shit, there's no way, right? But then you look at other places in Iran, and it's clear that it is modernized, right? The state of Iran is a very modern state. The quality of cameras that they use to record the fucking Ayatollah are not the quality of cameras they were using to record his speeches way back when. Let me just put it that way. And when you look at videos of people going through Tehran and these, like the airports and bus stations, train stations like that in Iran, what you see is a pattern that looks an awful lot like America. They are a completely modern country. That's why the United States was worried about them building nukes in the first place. Now, I don't think that they were actually anywhere close to building nukes. I don't think that they even intended to. I think they probably do now. But I don't think they did before the U.S. strikes. I think there's a higher chance they do now. I don't fucking know. But one thing I do know is that any country sophisticated and advanced enough to have nuclear centrifuges and shit has every manner of technology that they want to, as far as like transportation and infrastructure and that kind of thing. They are a modern country. They may not be a well-armed country, but they are a modern country. Yeah, the Republicans in my state want to revise what we voted for and won by like 14 points. They want to tax it more and cap THC limits very low for flower and concentrate. Also reduce plants to 3. Yeah, see what I mean, Trevor? Yeah, so you always have to be fighting, right? And it's one of those things that you might not understand about cannabis advocacy that might kind of throw you for a loop when it comes to the process of it all, right? But it's really just a sad truth about this particular brand of advocacy is that you want baseline legality, but then you've got to continue fighting against Republicans and people in your state basically that want to just push things back. That sort of pushback is always going to exist for any particular political issue. But I think on this one particular political issue, it's very easy to see where the pushback's going to come from and how it needs to be counteracted, right? And one of the biggest ways you counteract it is by spreading the message that I've given you. Next time you're talking to a weed advocate or someone that you know smokes weed in Ohio, next time you're talking to another Ohioan about the situation of cannabis laws in your state, remind them that the fight didn't end when we got the fucking proposition passed. The fight ends when we're dead in the grave, effectively. But the fight can end whenever we, end the war on cannabis. But for now, you kind of just got to keep fighting because they're going to try and make it fucked up. But if you fight against it, you can actually make it better. See, you're not just fighting against what the Republicans want to do to the bill. What you should really do, I'm not saying you in particular, I know you're not a lawmaker. But if a politician in your area wanted to make a big fucking splash with this issue, what they should really do is come up with their own set of revisions to the document, come up with their own vision for expanding what it does for Ohioans and actually makes it better, expands freedoms and shit like that. A person in that position might be able to counteract that Republican energy and actually get things improved and use that Republican fucking astroturfed campaign as a springboard. The images of Tehran this year look like my neighborhood getting fucked. Oh, dude, that's the sad fucking thing about it. Yeah, if you look at images of Tehran getting fucked up, even pictures of Israel getting fucked up, I mean, it is just nightmare fuel looking at these pictures. Anytime you see people cleaning up the rubble of a bomb or a missile going off in their home apartment building or near them. It's always fucking tragic and it's always fucked up. But it really does fucking especially blow that many of the images coming out of the damaged areas of Israel and Iran both kind of look like they could just be in American neighborhoods. Because these are modern countries we're talking about. It's just like, fuck, dude. When will it be enough? Will it ever be enough? Will there ever be enough blood shed in the Middle East to satiate whatever cruel God continues to enact violence on that area? Continues to allow violence to be enacted in that area? Will there ever be an end? Can there ever be an end? In my opinion, the answer is no. Mississippi, you been to Natchez? No. Never been to Natchez. I am going to go ahead and get off here, though. Thank you guys for hanging out, but I am super tired, and it's pretty late for me. So I'm going to get off of here, you guys. Thank you guys for hanging out. Remember to join the membership if you want to see exclusive streams that didn't get quite far enough to be, suitable for the plebs, right? They are far more suitable for people who give a shit about the channel, right? So consider doing that if you want to. It's also just a great way to support the channel. Thank you if you've already signed up for the membership. Thank you if you've super chatted tonight. I appreciate the support out of every single one of you guys. It is incredibly kind of you to contribute to our efforts here. So, with all that being said, thank you so much. These streams are fun. Thank you. And good night. Good luck and good night.